Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So for those of you who have noticed, we stopped streaming a little bit around June last year. Matt and I got very busy, and so we have plans to restart the channel, but we'll publish a video talking a little bit about that. The focus of this video is just to retell the showcase challenge for Vintage that happened last Saturday, where I was lucky enough to get top 8. A little bit about this deck. So I didn't make this deck. This is mostly from Matt and Calvin. They worked on this version. This is very close to what I also managed to get a promo in Eternal Week in Japan with a very similar deck as this one. Breakout from there was Redirect Lightning. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. But basically, after talking with some folks on Discord about the deck, I was surprised to see that not a lot of people are playing it. If we go and check on Goldfish, you'll see that for the most part it is hovering around 10th most played, give or take, where I and others are 9th. I and others, I think this is probably the best deck in Vintage right now. Closely with Doomsday, Frog, and the Lurrus Frog. These three, I would say, for me, are like top. But both Doomsday and Breach are a lot more intimidating to play against. And so I thought, hey, why not just go a little bit more in depth with this deck. Unfortunately, most of the very good players with Breach do not explain a lot their lines, and I wouldn't call myself good by any means. I just happen to have had a little bit of success, but I also have very good people helping me with it. So I also wanted to go over it a little bit in this video. We'll go over some of the rounds, not all of them. I've selected a few where you can see typical lines from the deck, but also some where I make mistakes and where the deck kind of falls short. So this version, straight up, let's talk a little bit about it. It is a little bit different than the normal one, but pretty much everyone has their own version of the deck. I like to think of this as kind of like a pizza deck. Like, as long as you play most of the same core, there's a lot of flex slots. But if you've never played this deck and you're curious about it, I would put it in the control combo deck. You are primarily a control deck with a lot of tools, mostly counter spells in this 6 hard counters plus the 4 mana drains, which people play between 2 and 4. I wouldn't play less than 3. Flusters, etc. So a lot of counter spells in there, plus some removal, some just good cards overall, and then a combo finish with Breach and Brain Freeze, and either Black Lotus or Lotus Petal. In case you've never seen this combo, basically with Breach, you can recast spells from the graveyard by exiling 3 cards. Every time you do that, you get 1 Storm, Brain Freeze gives you 3 cards, so you keep doing that while replaying Lotus to cast the Brain Freeze again and again, milling yourself basically, and eventually having enough Brain Freeze or enough Storm that you can Brain Freeze your opponent and kill them. This kills through most things, if not all of them. In general, things like Gaia's Blessing, you can just respond to the trigger and counter your Brain Freeze again, and then Ancestral them so that they deck. Similarly for Dredge, if you are too low on life and they have a lot of creeping chills left in the deck, you can still do something similar, or just combine it with the Soul Guide Lantern, that sort of stuff. But that's basically the gist of the deck. You are just controlling the board, gaining card advantage until you are ready to just combo kill them with Breach. You have other ways of killing too, which include just looping Time Walk and Breach with your Lurrus from the sideboard. So basically, every turn, you can replay the Breach from the graveyard. Once you have Lurrus active, you Time Walk, take another turn, and you keep doing that for, 5 or 6 turns, and you just win. You also have Urza Saga here, same plan, and that's basically how you win. Another thing that I just want to talk about in the deck generally are the quote-unquote piles. There's a million trillion different piles that you can make, but I think that if you want to just try playing this deck, the things that you have to think about, or the things that I have in mind all the time, is basically this is the basic pile. Where's Black Lotus? There you go. This is like the basic pile that you would do. Basically, your opponent has to give you 2 cards, and any 2 cards that they give you are pretty bad. Obviously, if they give you Demonic Lotus, they just die because you use Demonic for the second breach, and then you just kill. Demonic gets you Brain Freeze, and you just win. If you have enough mana, you can also put what is Time Walk? You can also put Time Walk in the pile. If you have 6 mana, you pay 4 for the gifts. Whatever they give you. So if they give you something like this, then you walk, get Lurrus, you play Lurrus, Lotus, then Breach from the graveyard, Demonic for Brain Freeze, and you kill. Things like those. I wouldn't say that you have to memorize this, but think about what you're trying to do. Like, what is this pile trying to accomplish, or this one? And then from there, you can start, making some strides. There's a lot of other things to think about, like how many tutors you want to put in the pile, which cards you never want to put in the pile. Usually Brain Freeze, you never want to put it. But you might have already the Breach in hand, in which case, like, where would you put this Breach? You can put the Brain Freeze already. You can also put Scroll. There's other piles that are more value-oriented, like something like this, where if you're just trying to go for getting a lot of advantage, you can just put these cards of the pile, which they usually will give you these two, like Gifts and Stock Up, in which case you just go +2 twice, and that usually is enough to win. But the idea is not so much, hey, I'll need to do this pile. It's just like something to get you started, right? Similarly, I feel with with Doomsday, where there's like the basic pile of like Ancestral Fluster, Lotus, Thoracle, and something else. And from there, once you get more experience, you can like expand a little bit more. Same idea here. Don't get married to this pile, but it is a good one to have in your brain as something that you can do. So this is the basic one. If you have 6 mana and you want to do it main deck, main phase, you can do it this way. Stuff like that. You'll see a lot of videos where I mess it up often. I'm not great at counting cards in the graveyard just yet, but if you are just starting off and you want to give this like a try, these are just a couple piles that you can just keep in your mind. And if you just have the time to just sneak in a gift, you can always make this pile, see where it leads you. Couple of choices or different things from our version compared to other versions that are going around. So first of all is no white. You might have been some that play things like Sevin's Reclamation, which you can put in the pile as well as like a kill, because Sevin's Reclamation comes from the graveyard, will give you back Breach and Black Lotus, so obviously that just usually kills, but also have Over Encumbered in the sideboard, which are very good against Initiative, Dredge, Counterbind, sort of the stuff. We opt not to play white. Nothing bad with playing white, honestly. I just feel like it's not necessary, and I like this one better. We also play a couple of different things in the main deck. Soul Lantern I've liked a lot just to try and beat Dredge from the main deck, but also as something good to loop with Lurrus in a pitch. Just Cycles is fine. This used to be Pyroblast, but for the showcase, I expected a lot of initiative, and if we check on the data, the data project from Vintage, you would see I think it was like 22% or something like that, so very, very high. Showcases, in case you're unfamiliar with MTGO, usually use qualifier points, which are points that you just get by playing, and so usually you have a ton of these like extra points just laying around here, and so you have to use them somehow. These give you some prizes that are fine, and so usually you see a lot of what I affectionately call tourists, and tourists usually will play whichever is the best deck, or whichever they see as the deck that is played the most, in which case Mono White Initiative is a pretty simple deck to play. Plays very similar to a lot of other legacy decks, if you're into like the Stumpy stuff, and also just seeing, it plays very well. It's somewhat easy to play, and if you also duo queuing, it's also pretty easy to just duo queue with it, so you just play that. Other things is with Red Lightning. This card has been completely bonkers for me, at least since I've been playing it. I started playing it in Japan, and it changed a lot of my matches. But I couldn't tell you if it's more that people don't know how to play around it yet, or that the card is very good. For now, I'm happy with it, and that's okay. A little bit of the sideboard. So the only change that I made compared to my challenge win deck was Unable to Scream. Unable to Scream instead of Lightning Bolt. And the reason for this is that, I was expecting a lot of Mono White Initiative, and Archon is like the card that you need to get rid of as soon as possible. And the problem with it is that sometimes if they go turn 1 Archon, and you cannot force it either because of a Chancellor or because there's like a bubble or whatever, or like Cavern, you are already in the back foot. Usually if this would bolt, you could go like, oh, fetch, and then they get, you know, maybe like Wasteland into a initiative creature, and by the time that you get the red mana, they already have a 4/5 Archon, and the bolt is never getting rid of it. Whereas Unable to Scream not only can always get rid of the Archon effect, but also you can play it off of basic island, which does not enter tapped with the Archon. So it's also like a good way of getting rid of it. Other stuff is pretty normal. It's usually either ways of getting rid of artifacts generally, so things like this. Ways of getting rid of annoying creatures. For the blue decks, you have the Pyro and the Reb. Momentum Breaker can help against initiative and things like Breaker. And then you have 5-ish cards for the Dredge or the big graveyard decks. Some of these come in against, let's say, Jewel. You could get Needle. Doomsday sometimes is using Necro and you have space. You can put it in. There's also another Soul Guide if you want it for the mirror, that sort of stuff. So it's relatively flexible. And just to finish it up, Gixlid Jailer, you might think, oh, it stops my abilities from, and kind of conflicts with Breach, but if this card enters the battlefield first and then you play Breach, the timestamps mean that this will not remove the escape from the Breach. So you can still play these two cards together without too much problem. Anyway, enough about the deck. I really hope that this gives you some ideas about how to play it, and again, I am not the best Breach player by any stretch of the imagination. This is just what I'm thinking of when I'm playing, and also like kind of like, you know, how to sequence it and think a little bit about. This deck is a control deck first. So if you think of Doomsday, for example, Doomsday has a turn 1 kill threat, a pretty high turn 1 kill threat. This deck seldom goes kill on turn 1. It needs a lot of things to go right for it to kill on turn 1. Even to kill on turn 2 is relatively complicated. Everything needs to line up well, and you need a lot of resources in the graveyard, which is not always easy to get. So think of more of it as a control kill, as a control deck, sorry, that kills with a combo, and sometimes you don't even need to kill with Breach Drain. Cool, so we'll start with the first matches, and I'll see you there. Alright everyone, so let's talk a little bit about this round 2. Because round 1 I forgot to record. It was against Blueback Frog and I won it. So this is round 2 against a Frog opponent. And I knew they were on Frog because a friend of mine knows them. But usually you can just, you know, Google their name and you will find it. So starting with this hand, pretty terrible. Just because we have no mana, so it's an easy mole. And from here, so I'm just gonna speed up. And from here we keep a okay hand. This hand goes turn to gifts with protection. If we drop the Merchant Scroll, or you know, kind of like is okay at not dying. Can also Merchant Scroll for Ancestral, and then Ancestral on our turn, have protection, that sort of stuff. So it does some things, and so we're gonna keep it because we mold. Even though we're on the play, we don't want the other force, just so that we don't have that much card disadvantage. And again, in this matchup, you want to mostly try to stop, keep your mana up, rather, and stop their frogs if possible. You are not that afraid of Bowmasters, to be honest. There's always the Twister combo to consider, so that can kill you very quickly, but overall, just being cautious. So here, I had to decide whether I wanted to just trade their Lurrus Ancestral, Demonic, and Pierce for my Force and Gifts. And ultimately, I decided to do so. It is definitely possible that it is correct not to here. But at the same time, I thought that if they had Pierce, I don't want them to pierce my Mana Crypt, because that would put me really, really behind. This Ancestral can get them more forces as well. So, you know, as far as possible, I want to try and trade. Here, I just Merchant Scroll now, in case they have drawn another Pierce or a Fluster, something like that. So I want to get my Ancestral right now. Gets negated, which is bad, but, you know, fine. We got rid of a Frog, I believe. Yes, we got rid of a Frog from it, and our opponent digs. At this point, we're pretty behind. Not only has our opponent resolved most of their broken spells, but also they are up 3 cards. And we have a mana crypt in play, which is kind of like killing us slowly, but it's gonna put a clock on us, whereas we are happy to just try to, like, you know, make the game go along, and not really much going on for us. So here, without much else, just hold the Lurrus. Mindbreak Trap is interesting to defend on their turn, and Gifts is interesting. So now here, there is something that comes up relatively often, which is to Gifts on their turn. And the reason is, obviously, because then you can untap and do the things, but also sometimes you just want to wait until they play a spell, and then you can go Gifts. If they force, you force back. If they force again, then you have Mindbreak Trap active, and you can get rid of the entire stack. This is not the case here, because they have Saga, they have Pressure. If this was just Bowmaster's Pass, basically like this, but instead of those aside, it's another land, I'm really chilling. Like, there's not anything happening. So we can just hold up here, and I go for the Gifts just to make something happen. And also because if they want to force, I am Force of Negation, exactly. Or if they want to play something like that, because I kind of read them on Force of Negation here. This takes them off Saga, the what's his name, the Construct. If you leave the Saga go, it's gonna make 2 3/3s. And that's already like quite a lot. That will make the clock significantly faster. Instead of dying in, like, right now we're dying in like 7 turns, we're dying like 3. So I sacrificed the Mindbreak in the attempts of getting them off of the mana. But I'm also like not super happy with how the game is going. So at this point, I'm just trying to make something happen. And getting rid of the Saga, I thought, was just as good as I could make it, because of what I mentioned of the clock. So at this point, our opponent just gets Vexing Bubble to protect the Time Twister, and luckily for us, we got the Mana Drain. So here I'm just going to Mana Drain. They cannot force back, obviously, because they have their bubble. They could pop the bubble if they wanted, and they could force, and at that point, I think that we just die. But they don't have it. So here I'm just reading them on either they have Fluster, which we could pay for with 3 mana, or they have just Appears that we could also pay for, or just, you know, things like Plow or whatever. This is Esper, so they have removal that is useless for them in this first. We got a lot of mana, and here it's kind of strange, because if we just pass, what's gonna happen is that we're gonna get Strip Mined. Eventually, our opponent can just like kill us from here, and if they just end step another Bowmaster, pretty down the water. So I decide to just use my mana here and see if I can make something happen. Because to combo through, we also need to combo through the bubble. And so here is the Plow that I mentioned, which also makes our Lurrus kind of like we also have nothing in the graveyard to record, so already pretty bad spot. Get the Ancestral, and because I know that there's no second Bowmaster, and it's like this is probably the best chance that I have to resolve this Ancestral, and so I'm getting it in. Get an Abrade, and here I'm gonna try and get cute a little. So we're gonna let this Orc Army get a +1/+1 counter, and then we're gonna kill it, so that we at least don't get domed by all the damage. Again, Bowmaster is not a problem here, even though I just drew the Lorien, but obviously I have to do that or I just die. Go to 2, we got wasted, and we lose a flip, and that's it. So let's move on to the sideboard against the Frog deck. Usually you want Chain for their Nurods and their Gravedigger's Cage, as well as Brotherhood's End, which either clears the board and you just win with the creatures, or just get rid of all of their hate. Long Goodbye just kills a Frog or a Lurrus uncounterably. You don't want Momentum Breaker in this one because of the flash in Bowmasters. Just stack the token and you just look silly. Unable to Scream, again, just to stop the Frog from drawing. The Frog can, if they want to discard a couple cards, they're free to do so. And the counter stays, so the Frog is still going to be a clock, but at least it's not going to draw them cards. Double Pyro and Rep, and obviously we play 2 different names because then Gifts can get us both. And that's basically that. And here we're just going to take a couple of cards. So Mindbreak Trap and Force of Negation. Force of Negation, they just don't have anything that you want to negate. Usually Mindbreak Trap can help you to resolve Gifts, but often because they also play the not only they play Bubble, but Esper versions play Lavinia, so I want as few zeros as possible. Crypt, also because of what I've mentioned, but it is a way that you die very quickly if there is a null rod in play. Emerald is the worst mox of the deck, and we just take it off as well as Bamp, just because it's card disadvantage, and 1 mana drain. There's other cards that you could take off. You could definitely take off the Soul Guide, but I like it as counterplay. And Fluster, I find, helps me defend against their Flusters, which sometimes they just bring in. Again, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go over every match, every game of every match, but this one was relatively interesting, so I'm just going to go over the 3 of them. And let's just start with our opening hand. So this is about as perfect as it gets. You have a protected force with a basic. It's important in this matchup to also try to get one, if not both basics, unless your colors are going to get very strained. We already have the Underground Sea for the Long Goodbye on the first frog, and so, or the Lavinia if they play one. And so here, pretty happy to just get my basic, pass turn to the upkeep, so they cannot Force of Negation me, and just ancestor myself. Pretty good and solid stuff. Gifts with Sol Ring means that I can play it into turns. Here, they get a pretty good start with Sapphire, which is their Vex Mox, and they play Lavinia. And here, I could force it, but again, as I mentioned, or usually I would force it because it stops all of the stuff that I can do. But Long Goodbye is uncounterable, and so I can just easily just kill it with it. Here I go for a little bit of a greedy play. Now, if they have like a Daze, so here I should have played the land first, but if they have exactly like a force and they have the Soul Read that they need to get rid of the Soul Ring, but by not showing a land, they might just be like, oh, well, this is maybe just the only thing they can do from this Ancestral, and Lavinia stops you from playing things that are, unless you have the cards in the lands to play it. So I try to sneak in this Soul Ring because I want to be able to just accelerate my mana a little bit, as well as that. Here I could have definitely just also used the extra mana for the Lorien, and since I have 2 blue cards that I can choose between with Force of Will, ultimately decided not to. I think I should have, also because it gives me 1 more card in graveyard, and at this point I am looking at a kill in 1 or 2 turns with 1 layer of protection if I want to go for it. So definitely interesting to just go for it. Also, Lorien is not as good against them, especially because of Bowmasters, and it's our only 1. So there's some tension there. Here, I'm just gonna force, I think, the Frog, with the idea being you can force this, and if they have something to fight for, then you can just Breach for the Long Goodbye if you wanna kill that, or you can just Ancestral once, or just see if they can, you know, get down a little bit of resources. And I pitched the Lorien because I have another lander up already, and I can either stock up through Fluster and through Pierce, or I can try to get lucky with the gifts. I can also here just, you know, fetch Ancestral if I want to with the Breach. With a Force backup, I feel a little bit more comfortable going for gifts, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Indirect step. Okay, play land. Frog, I don't care about the Frog. Time Walk. Okay, so here is an interesting one, because they have already played a spell. I can make a pile that gives me Mind Break Trap if I had it. I don't think I have it anymore. But what I'm thinking here is I just make a pile with Lotus and 3 counter spells. And the counter spells, if they're Rebs, can get rid of the Frog and also counter the Time Walk, because I don't want them to give another card. I think that if I stop this Time Walk and I resolve a stock up, I'm pretty far ahead. And so here I think for a little bit about the pile. I make the pile wrong, which is, again, one of those things where, like, you know, take your time. Again, here, if you'll notice, I have 15 minutes. It's game 2. So I can spend about 5 to 8 more minutes in this game if I want to be able to win. So always be mindful about how much time you have left. We're going to scroll through a little until I make the pile. But it is the wrong pile. I thought of one that's better. So my pile ended up being... Lotus, Fluster, Force of Will, Pyroblast. The idea is whatever 2 cards you give me, I am able to force with backup. And here's where I kind of failed to realize that this force actually doesn't get, like force Black Lotus actually doesn't get me there. And so instead of force here, I think I should have gotten Red Elemental Blast. The idea being you either give me two counter spells, one of which can kill the frog, or you just give me Lotus Fluster. You don't know that I have Force of Will, or Lotus like a Pyro, and then maybe you have like Misstep, right? The idea here for me is that I want to counter this Time Walk, and I'm putting my opponent on one force. Because otherwise you don't tap out like this, because if your Time Walk gets countered or your frog gets dealt with, you are pretty naked. So that's kind of what I want to do. But again, this Force of Will should be Red Elemental Blast. I just forgot that I had it. Because in that case, no matter what they do, they give me at least one force. They either give me Lotus and a counter spell. And in this board, if I deal with this or I deal with the frog, I just go Lotus, Lotus, then replay Lotus, and I have a pretty strong sequence. But yeah, again, this rep should be something else. There's probably other paths you could do. This is the one that I made here with that in mind. And ideally, again, my goal is that I want to try to either get rid of this Time Walk and the frog and either resolve, breach, and kill, or breach Ancestral a couple times. Because this is going to put 3 more cards in my graveyard, plus the Delta that has to get me Volk, a lot of cards in the graveyard. But this pile that I made fails to do that. And I think they are going to give me the force in the end. Let's just move on. Yeah, so this is where I mentioned that if this was Red Elemental Blast, I am much more comfortable here. Because now I'm going to pitch force to force so that I have my stock up. Whereas in the other situation, I could just pitch force to pitch stock up to force and have rep for the Psychic Frog or something like that. Regardless, I pitch frog to frog, force to force. And if they force me back, at least they have just one card plus whatever they draw. So I'm feeling pretty chill. They then force back, which means that they either value the force for something else or they have force of negation. And here I have a kill because I can scroll for the force, have another blue card. I just go Black Lotus for, I go Lotus, I breach, and then I get, with Merchant Scroll, I get the Brain Freeze, and I just win. However, I think this is one of those where I mess it up. No, actually, never mind. It's possible to mess it up from here. Yeah, so again, double force of negation. So we put them on the force, just the wrong force. And from here, it's a triple win. We have enough cards in the graveyard to play, I think here the Cotidia, but just to analyze it again, just for the purposes of this. So we have 4 mana plus 10 cards in graveyard, which means that we can play our spells 3 times. But here, even just tap blue for Merchant Scroll, so 1, 2, 3 cards or whatever, or even just like Lotus from any 3 cards, then Gifts Ungiven for whatever, like Brain Freeze and 3 more cards. That also just kills from there. Because Gifts is free, quote unquote, to cast because you get the gifts back in the graveyard plus 2 more cards, and so plus 2 in your hand. So whatever you put, usually is Brain Freeze Petal and 2 more nonsense. But from here, it's a pretty trivial win. Even if you don't have gifts, you can just Merchant Scroll for. Like even without anything else, like this mana, you just tap 1 blue and a red for Merchant Scroll, get Brain Freeze, fetch, another one, Brain Freeze yourself, and that's it. Important, sometimes when you have fetches, to not Brain Freeze yourself immediately, just try to get the mana first and then you Brain Freeze, in case you just mill your lands. No changes to the sideboard. And here, this hand is actually pretty interesting. Again, with it has like 2 lands, one of them, I mean, unless they have like, what's his name? Strip Mine, this hand is pretty solid. We're just gonna Ancestral with Protection. We could take it slow, too. You could just go Snow Covered Island Pass, fetch with Lorien, and then Force with, Ancestral with Force and Fluster backup. But here, they go for the Ancestral on my turn, and then I have to Force. I Force with Fluster, because I feel like generally once Ancestral has resolved, your Fluster is mostly defensive. And Mana Drain is going to help me more in the long term. However, I am also a little mana short, so it is also possible that forcing, pitching, Mana Drain, play Island and pass, and that's fine. I could also just get lucky here and get like Sapphire or Lotus or whatever, and I can hold up Mana Drain as well. I just Ancestral. There's also a line here that you could think of once I see the Redirect Lightning of just like passing. Pass, then get a Redirect, what's his name? Volk for Redirect Lightning, stuff like that. But because this deck plays Pierces, Flusters, whatever, I am more willing to run into a Force of Negation, in which case my opponent goes -1 card, and they are on 2 cards when I'm at 4. I'm more willing to do that than anything else. And the only reason that I'm saying that I could wait is because a Strip Mine here just pretty much crushes me if this Ancestral gets, like, let's say, misstepped, and they just Strip Mine, I'm just, like, not doing much. So this being my land is important. However, here, I decided to just go for it. Play the Lurrus and pass. And the game opens up quite a lot from here. Strip Mine, as I mentioned. So here, again, if they had the counter spell, I would have been pretty dead. Our next cards were Lurrus, Reb, and Underground Sea, which means that I am not necessarily completely dead. But if they Strip Mine me, hold, or they even just go Strip Mine into Lavinia, my Lurrus is dead. Then it can get very, very bad. So this I played very, very like aggressively when I didn't have to, but yeah, ended up working out in my favor. And here I'm just very happy to just hold. I'm gonna go, I think, for a Volk exactly, because Redirect Lightning can also work on abilities. So if my opponent tries to Strip Mine me, I am going to get rid of their blue mana. Bowmasters is perfectly fine. Again, I have already resolved my Ancestral, and I have already gotten rid of my Lorien. Those are my 2 draw spells. I have left Gitaxian Pro and the Soul Guide for it, so I'm, again, not really worried about it. Opponent plays Wasteland, and I redirect it into their Tundra, which, you know, just very annoying for them. This means that my island is pretty safe because Volk is a lot more juicy here than my Snow-Covered Island. Our opponent fetches, and I'm not sure that I would have done it, but because I have Lurrus as well, you know, it's kind of rough. But yeah, they had a pretty rough showing with the Red Lightning. And this is what I mean by I'm not sure if the card is good or what, because the sequencing there from our opponent, if you are reading it as on it, is to just Strip Mine directly before you play the Tundra, but so that you have no lands that I can redirect it to, unless I just want to save it somehow. So again, just playing lands. Here, there's like the world is my oyster pretty much. I know my opponent is on Tundra something else, so they cannot daze, they cannot do much. It's very likely that there's a kill here. In fact, I think I need 8 mana, I think, to do the kill with the Demonic. And there is potentially a way with Chain of Vapor, because you can chain your own things and sack all your lands to put more cards in the graveyard. I spent a couple of minutes, I think like a minute, thinking about the line. And I try going for it. I think I tapped wrong, yeah. Because here... somewhere around here, I believe there was a kill, but I didn't see. Let me think about it again. 1 second, I'm just gonna pause. Yeah, I don't think there's a line. I think I just had to grab. So here, something very simple you can do, especially because I know the Tundra's here, and just to get more time, is to simply just Demonic for the Breach, and then you can like Red Elemental Blast the Psychic Frog. Again, because I miscounted, I think I thought I had another. I need 2 more cards, and there's again lines where you can like chain for something. So again, if you see, I need to be able to recast my Demonic, so I need 2 more cards in the graveyard, and obviously it cannot be the Lurrus itself. And so here, if I go chain my Lurrus, sack a land, and chain something else, then I have 2 more cards in the graveyard. I replay the Lurrus, and there's kind of like a way, but it is very, very tenuous. And also because my opponent can sack their Strip Mine to get back the Underworld Breach, which is not incredibly bad. But yeah, from here, I realized that I messed it up savagely, and so I'm trying to just do math in my head of like, what is something that I can do? And so here, I'm like, okay, well, I'm dead to... Well, I'm not dead to most things. If my opponent's last cards are Tundra and Twister, I can survive with the Mana Drain. Most likely. And so here, my line, I think, is going to end up being Elemental Blast, the Frog, and then Chain of Vapor, my own Breach, so that I go again next time. But I stock up, get more cards. I think from here, literally anything works. Force Pyro is decent. Again, just to ensure that you don't die, because I'm going to tap out since I've already played my Lurrus. So Red Elemental Blast, the Frog, so that my opponent cannot draw cards. Replay the Lurrus, leaving the Demonic in the graveyard, just so I have mana for also mana drain if I need to. And then Chain of Vapor, then Lurrus Breach. Again, I'm taking a lot of time here because I got nervous that I messed it up. And this is one of those things where, like, the deck is flexible enough that you can always more or less get yourself out of these like sticky situations. And I feel pretty comfortable that I'm not dead here. I have double force. And now that, you know, nothing is really happening and I don't have the red to go for it, I'm just going to wait. Because if I had red, I could also just like, or if they had done something where I'm able to force, I have one more land, and from here I can go. If I force something, right? I just breach. I have 4 cards in graveyard. I demonic for the brain freeze myself, and I kill. But I'm 1 card short. And again, I don't want to get rid of my Lurrus, so I need 1 more card in graveyard. And there I could have gone, but at this point my opponent has enough cards. But with a stock up, I could have definitely gone with triple red. Then 2 red and a blue for stock up, 2 more cards and go. But I'm trying to be a little more patient since I'm not under any like incredible threat. Wasteland though changes my plans because at this point I need 2 more mana to do what I'm trying to do. And so here I just go for stock up with red for the Pyroblast. I am forcing because I need the cards. Saga and Brain Freeze. Just because at this point, this is a kill. I've put enough cards in the graveyard that I am comfortable to kill from here. And I can kill not through like literally anything. If my opponent has something here, it's a little bad. But, you know, at some point I have to go. And so I decide to go here. Accumulate mana so that I have enough to mana drain as well. So here I just cast again. Even though I'm losing my demonic because I already have brain freeze in my hand, and so that's it. I have mana drain backup for their 1 card, and even if it's Flusterstorm, I can at least resolve a couple copies, and those are going to be enough. So long as 2 copies resolve, I'm fine, or even 1 copy actually. And so yeah, from here it's just a kill. Very very messy because again I miscounted, but good enough to get there. And this is kind of like why I wanted to show this one a little bit, which is that sometimes you mess up the pile and you still can move on. So let's go on to the next round. All right, welcome to round 4. We're only gonna look at game 3 here. We traded blows and ended up here in game 3. The sideboard for this is as follows. So we need to get rid of creatures and artifacts, and so we add 1 Chain of Vapor, 1 Unable to Scream, the Momentum Breaker, Long Goodbye, Brotherhood's End, and another Dress Down, and we take out our 2 Flusterstorms, obviously nothing to fluster in their deck, Misstep and Probe just because they're just very medium. There's really nothing on 1 that we want to counter except for maybe like Vexing Bubble, usually not good enough. Vexing Bubble, Redirect Lightning can sometimes save you with the Wastelands, but it's not typical that it's gonna be good. And then the main deck, Soul Guide Lantern goes out. And so here, it's an interesting game because it comes down to just a decision of which cards to pick and what is important in the matchup and what isn't. So, or what, thinking about like how you die. So my first hand is pretty simply a colossal dud. There's really nothing happening here. We don't have a survey line in this deck either, so just like nothing happening. This one has some promise. Because I'm on the play specifically, I can just go Underground Sea, Petal. If they have a bubble, I can just, a Chancellor tax, I can just play the Petal through it and hold up Force of Negation. I'm on 6, and so here I'm just thinking like what exactly I want to do. and what do I want to try to win against and lose against. And because I'm all on the play, usually Force of Negation is not where I want to be. Just because it's an extra card disadvantage. Despite me being pretty far away from this Brotherhood's End, it's still a very good card in the matchup to get rid of a lot of things. So Learn of the Void just means that I cannot loop this Momentum Breaker or distress them, which is sadness. But it is what it is. And so I need at least a Chain of Vapor now to get rid of this, or go with a Saga Construct plan. My opponent opens plains Ruby Pass, which is a pretty strange keep if I were on my opponent's side. Usually just Leyline is whatever. You can play through Leyline. What is a lot harder is Leyline plus a clock. And this means to me that their hand has to be full of 3-drops or even 4s. And so I have to put it out a little bit. Time Walk is not where you want to be when you have nothing going on. And so I'm just holding up on it. I have most of the things covered with Momentum Breaker, Dress Down. If there's initiative right now, I would put a Dress Down. Second Leyline, so our opponent at least played it well, unless they just drew it. But that's that. And the Famed Archon. Also notably, Caracas stops our Lurrus loops as well as our kill with Lurrus, unless we get some weird things where they have it tapped and we can start looping Time Walks. And also, unlikely that we're going to be looping Time Walks since it's going to be exiled pretty soon to this Leyline. But our opponent plays Archon, which we have covered with Momentum Breaker, so just as we want it. And we have to go now with the Momentum Breaker, unless they play another creature, in which case we don't have time to do it. Saga is a great draw, and because I don't want it to come untapped, I'm just going to Momentum Breaker now, play Saga, and then play Time Walk. And the reason for that is that I'm losing the pedal, for sure, but I am getting at least one construct from the Saga, and that seems to be like my main plan right now. Plus, this Saga could get me Lotus, and Lotus could get me Brotherhood's End with 2 artifacts or whatever they end up playing. If my creatures end up being big enough, they can survive from the Brotherhood's End. So here I get Lotus. Again, in any other situation, I would be just playing Lurrus or graying Lurrus, but here my plan is just to make constructs, and keeping the Lotus in play means that they are going to beat any of my opponent's creatures in combat. Conqueror is very annoying, but it is what it is. Also notably is that Dress Down is going to kill my own constructs, so I need to be relatively judicious about how I'm using my Dress Down. But for now, this is alright. There is a world in which I don't get anything from here and just cast Stock Up instead for more lands and just try to win from there. But here I feel like my constructs are going to be 4/4s, so I'm going to hit them for 4. They're not going to block. And then the next time I'm hitting them for 8, which I felt was sufficiently good of a plan. At some point they have to block and get rid of this Conqueror. If they get rid of all of my creatures, I can Dress Down end step and go. Other things that I can do here, no amount of me playing so I can only play Mox Emerald, right? And if I make my construct a 5/5, they're also not going to they're not going to trade for both creatures, right? So at this point, I'm like, my creatures are going to grow very slowly. Theirs are very big, and I want to unlock my mana. So I'm going to try to make an attack, and my thought is that if I don't play my Mox Emerald, they're more likely to double block, and they do. I want to get rid of the Conqueror because I have a lot of mana tied up, and so that's fine. And here I'm just going to stock up. And here is where I think I lose the game. So I already have enough that I can beat this Archon. Worst case scenario, I just Dress Down and do something with it. I have Brotherhood's End from the Lotus. And so here, I'm going to pick, I believe, a Braid and Misty, just because I want another land and Misty stops my opponent. But thinking about what my opponent has, right? My opponent can have basically anything. There's also obviously the Merchant Scroll for Ancestral and just recoup from there. I don't necessarily want to lose a lot of cards, and also because of the Archon, it's very hard to do that play. I think here, anything from Mana Drain Vamp, Mana Drain Land, something like that, or just, yeah, Vamp Up Raid, something like this. Merchant Scroll also is okay because it would get me the so you got me chain. So for example, here I cannot do it right now, right? But I could do Merchant Scroll Mana Drain. If they play something scary without the Cavern, I just mana drain it, get a ton of mana that I can't really use, but I can get Lurrus and then play mana like Merchant Scroll. And then the next turn, I can bounce the ley line and start looping Dress Down. Or start looping Momentum Breaker, and from there I should be winning. But I get a Braid and Misty. My reasoning for this is just to try and get rid of the Archon and stuff, but not identifying that if I get the scroll and I protect myself this turn, I am very unlikely to lose. Because I can, unless I get like, very, very unlucky in a way, it is very hard for me to lose from this position. Even Bump actually is better. So Bump Manager, because then I can bump on my opponent's turn. So I'm making use of that, and then I can do something. But again, if I want a mana drain, I cannot bump, but I can also bump in my upkeep. So bump is a little bit more flexible, so maybe just mana drain bump here. It's also identifying that I have nothing going on other than this construct, right? And my opponent is just is very likely to either start drawing bangers or any of the lands is very annoying. Lurrus looping also very difficult with the Caracas, but still I feel like bump mana drain or even bump Merchant Scroll is better than what I pick here. And I am immediately punished because my opponent top decks the Ancient Tomb, unless they hide it already, and they play Chancellor, which I can't do much about at the moment. Again, because I cannot loop the Momentum Breaker. Right now, even if I had done what I had said, they would be tapped out, and I would have popped the Lotus, lost it, to... what's his name? Mana Drain. And then off the Mana Drain, I can get the Lurrus and try to do something. Lurrus into, I don't even know, Brotherhood's End, get rid of the Archon, that sort of stuff. But I don't. And so here, I'm just gonna start trying to get something going. So I Abrade first and play Mox. And here, one thing that I could have done is just attack. If my opponent blocks, I Brotherhood's End and kill it. And then at least we are on an empty board, my opponent is top decking. But they have a trillion lands, right? I just got the Lurrus, which is a mistake. So here I should have just attacked and threatened the Brotherhood's End. Because this Lurrus is not gonna stick like ever. They have Caracas, I have nothing for the Caracas, and so it's just never happening. And I have nothing to loop here anyway. And here the game starts to degenerate. I'm still like relatively in a well position because if I draw gifts or something like that, it's relatively okay. But again, this Leyland is really stopping me. And I've already used my Time Walk, I've already used my my Saga. So really, I have to get rid of the Leyline and survive somehow, but they also got the initiative, which I would gladly take if I could, but I cannot. And so again, had we done the play that I said last turn, right? Even in response to the Seasoned Engineer, we could dress down in response. And they don't get the thing. But because I didn't attack, I cannot dress down or I lose my creature. And so that is one of the problems. All right. So we ended up trading the construct and our Brotherhood's End for the Seasoned Engineer. The Explorer, get the Lotus. Like, it's very, very bad right now. We can maybe get some life. This also should work. If I dress down in response to this, they should not be able to name anything, but it's buggy and empty geo. At this point, it's just trying to do something. Like literally the only thing that I can think of at this moment is just something like loop, like get like, I don't know, chain my Momentum Breaker, bounce the ley line, and then play Momentum Breaker, get rid of the creatures, play Lurrus with the Lotus, and sack the Momentum Breaker, replay it. I think I have mana for everything. Even through the Caracas, I am able to clear the board and at least stabilize a little. They named the Lurrus. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it could end up mattering at the end of the day because now it would cost more. I take a screenshot for a refund, even though I'm not gonna need it. But yeah, it's one of like those known bugs. Like again, here I'm just dead. Nothing I can do. But again, if I had thought of the line that I need actually to prioritize getting my Chain of Vapor so that this Lurrus can start looping Momentum Breaker. Because if you start looping Momentum Breaker, even if they have Caracas, it's fine. Because this loop takes 5 to 7 mana at intermittent turns. And I had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So even through Caracas, I can go crack Momentum Breaker to gain life, play Lurrus, replay Momentum Breaker, kill one of the creatures. And if they bounce my Lurrus, that's fine, right? So prioritizing that, again, if you remember, I had this choice. Let's see, yeah. We had this choice, and we probably picked the 2 worst cards. Like, any combination of these 3 are much better than these 2. I think at this point I am tunnel visioned on. I want to kill this. I want to kill this. What's his name? This Archon, and because I cannot play Emerald and Brotherhood's End and have my Construct survive, I just get paranoid. But I even have to identify, right, in this situation that I'm winning the race. Not only am I hitting them for 3, I have 4 life here. That are kind of, a lot of people forget that this gains you life, and my speed is at 3, so at least it gives me 3 life, probably 4. I'm winning this race. Even if I'm not doing the race, I'm playing, even if my opponent does nothing or does something, I can just play this as a 4/4. It beats most creatures, right? And so in this situation, identifying that this is not what the game is going to be about for me, even if they go, like, I don't even know, like the worst that I can think of, right, which would be like Wasteland into the Clarion Conqueror, that gets stopped by Mana Drain as well. You know, Mana Drain, you get the mana, you're a little, flunked a little, but you can still sort of play like Mana Drain with Bamp for whatever, get the Lurrus into your hand, and then from there, you can start playing, or you can play another land, whatever. Like, identifying them for here, these 2 cards are not what the game is going to be about, and you should start trying to get through here. So this cost me my only loss in Swiss, and it all came from here. Like, if you see the match, like, if we do these picks or this pick, whatever, the match just changes a lot. And even then, we had a chance to try to stabilize it a little differently. So yeah, this is where, like, kind of like the deck can fall apart. And Mortal Initiative is a difficult matchup to navigate, as you can see. So yeah, I'll see you for round 4 after this. All right, let's get with round 4. So our opponent here, when I looked them up, they didn't have any vintage. And so again, through this whole showcase, if I see someone that's just like a multi-format grinder with no Lurrus, I'm assuming more wide initiative. This hand is okay against initiative. There's certain good things about it. Obviously, snow-covered island, or basic island, basically, so that it's insulated against Archon starts and a bunch of stuff that we can do through. Turn 1 Mana Drain if things don't get too spicy. If they have, like, I don't know, something like double Chancellor, we can always throw out our Mox. We can hold up Mana Drain, we can go for Saga, we can do quite a lot of stuff. Only one thing that I have to be careful about is if they play Void Mirror, I cannot play Soul Ring off of Saga. So that delays me a little, but I can still play give or take. So I'm keeping this one. And we'll see what they do. And here, this is a interesting thing because I don't think that this is keepable by the mono white initiative opponent. This just tells me basically either there's, so first of all, there's no other Mox. There's no Ancient Tomb probably, or any 3, because you probably start with that. Or you could probably actually start with Plains. So I'm expecting either another basic or another 1 mana, and then the hand is full of 3s and 4s. Basically, that's what's happening. There was no Void Mirror, no Chalice, no Bubble, no other Moxen. So it's all lands and 3s and 4s. And so this also means that I want to prioritize my Mana Drain line. I draw the Mana Crypt, which is great here because it lets me play the Lurrus and hold up Mana Drain. But also means that now there's a clock, quote unquote, against me. Not usually that important because in this matchup, it touches me very quickly, so we don't go that long that Mana Crypt matters. But yeah, here, very clearly, Clarion Conqueror needs to be countered, obviously. There's 5 of my mana is on artifacts. And we just top deck the gifts, which in this case, because we have a lot of mana. So here's an interesting one as well, because we have a lot of mana. and we could go for like the typical pile. But if you look, like if they don't give us the Lotus, we basically have no way to cast most things, right? Like we cannot cast this Demonic or this Breach. If I place, let's say they give us Time Walk, which they probably shouldn't. What you would give us here is likely just Demonic Underworld. At the same time, they don't know what I have in my hand, so you know, you can play with it. But here, I think I could get like a little punked with this hand, and this Saga is not necessarily guaranteed to give me the pedal. And so I take what we discussed at the beginning with this like value pile. I have a lot of blue and a lot of like hard mana. So I decide going for a more value-oriented pile, which is this one, just the all blue value. I could have also gotten Lotus just to guarantee a card, but given that I'm putting this and I'm going to go for Saga. Saga can get me the Lotus, and the Lotus can get me the Lurrus, and from there we can go on. Again, they have a Caracas, so this Lurrus is a little bit less attractive. But yeah, we get this pile. And then I think my opponent, because they might not be used to gifts, is going to give me the wrong pile, or what I would consider the wrong pile, but maybe that's fine. Because the cards you click are the cards that go to the graveyard, not the cards that you give your opponent. So here, I just get this Ancestral, and from here, like, literally, you could do anything. In fact, probably just have a kill right here. With the Demonic, yeah. Demonic can get me Breach, and from here, Breach, play Tutor from the graveyard. And, sorry. Actually, I think here I misclicked. At some point here, I think I misclick with the, yeah, because this, yeah, exactly. I misclick here. What you have to do here, this is actually an interesting point, because even here where it's just like absolutely winning, no matter what I do, I messed up. So I go for Pedal, and there's no point to going for Pedal. We have 9 cards, right? So 9 cards means that I can cast up to 3 of my spells if I put something else in the graveyard. So here, it's tap Saga, tap Underground Breach, cast Demonic, lose 3 cards. Demonic gets us Lotus, play Lotus, crack it, Demonic for, what's his name? For Brain Freeze 1, 2, and 3. We have 3 cards left, and then when we pop the Lotus we can play with the remaining 3 cards, and then we just breach ourselves. And I think I counted that correctly. So it's Demonic would take 1, 2, 3, and then we have 6 left, and then what's the name? Black Lotus, play Black Lotus, crack 4, black, Demonic again. So 1, 2, 3. We have these 3 cards left plus the Lotus in there, and now we would have 1 black floating plus the Brain Freeze in our hand. And 4 cards. We have Stock Up, Demonic, Lotus, and Petal. And then we would cast the Lotus with the remaining. And Brain Freeze and kill. So from here, I just, even here where it's like a clear, or a pretty clear line. I don't know why I go for the Petal. I think I misclicked it. Yeah, I think at some point I misclicked it because my hand was very shaky in this play. Just because I'm like hyper caffeinated at this point. So even here, how do we recover, right? So when this type of stuff happens, in this case, I'm just going to Time Walk. Just because the Caracas is tapped. And so here, just a vamp for Lotus, play Lurrus, or not even vamp for Lotus, sorry. I can vamp for Brain Freeze. The Saga is going to give me the Lotus, and then I have enough. But yeah, a very silly one that no need at all to mess it up. But that just kind of shows a little of like how easy it is to get distracted sometimes, especially in these long events. But also like how you can make a pile, even if you are just on blue mana. The rest of this one is not as interesting, so we're just going to go for round 5. All right, round 5. Our opponent does play quite a lot, and they show no Lurrus again. So here I'm thinking mostly Dual, Raker, or Mono White Initiative. People that play a lot don't tend to pick Dredge, in my experience, unless they are like a dedicated Dredge player, or Vine, unless, you know, sometimes they do. But in my head, I'm putting them on Dual, Raker, or Initiative. Could also be Oath, by the way, but I don't think about it too much. So our opponent opens with Sapphire, which could be anything. And here I'm just relying on this Mindbreak Trap, which with the Sapphire has a lot of potential of going off. And here, there's a thought in my mind that this might just be the start of what they have. So for example, a hand like this needs a, what's his name? Needs another artifact. And so here I'm just like, if I Mindbreak Trap, do I just stop them? Because I'm putting them on Jewel. But that's incorrect. And also because I thought, if I get this and they get just, you know, what's his name? Just land pass, I lose my Mindbreak Trap opportunity. So I try to cash it in when I can. And so I cash it in right now. But I get super punked. And this puts me on Jewel right now, which means that I have basically like a turn to put something together, maybe. Which also the deck like kind of behaves a lot, because this is almost a kill. If I had a black mana up, it would be probably a kill from here, or very close to it. Again, these gifts can get us the pile with the Time Walk, not anymore with the Karn. So Flesh Raker also puts this on Raker shops, basically. But in here, just to go through a line, if there is no Karn, the win is just play land gifts for the Black Lotus, Demonic, Time Walk, and Breach, and from there we just kill. So even here, where our opponent got a pretty big start, had we countered the One Ring, it's mostly winning. But yeah, I let them do a little bit. They even get the Manifold Key because I exiled it, which is cute. So that lets them wrinkle a couple more times. I just want to get to see maybe a couple more cards. But it's pretty clear that it's Raker shops. I let them draw a couple more. That's it. And here we're just gonna bring a little bit of graveyard hate. So we need Brotherhood, Zend, and Hercules for things like Trinisphere and the like, or also just to blow up the board if they have a lot of stuff. Chain of Vapor to stop the Karn, as well as Pithing Needle for the ring. And out go the two basics because they don't run land destruction, flusters because there's nothing to fluster mostly. Sometimes they play one or two POs, but for the most part you're not flustering anything. And the Soul Guide because it's completely pointless. And we're gonna move on. I can see, yeah, okay. So the Redirect Lightning. Redirect Lightning has some utility, very minor, but sometimes it works just because you can use it to make it so that your opponent untaps one of your artifacts if they try to go for like a very all-in Time Vault line, and you can stop them right there. And so here, I think with this cyber is fine. So I take out the Redirect Lightning for an extra island just to have more things to do. Again, it's hard to know. Like Redirect Lightning can sometimes be very useful, but in this case, it's a little minor, and I'm kind of thinking about being able to stop or to play better into the Trinisphere lines. TBD. Again, it's just like it doesn't have that much utility. So here I value the land maybe a little bit more, but it's not that normal. So here, the thing is, Raker Shops doesn't play counter spells, and so going for the Ancestral immediately is possible, but I think the Mana Drain line is better, just because like if I Mana Drain something big, I can just go for like, not only is there like already a card in the graveyard, the Mana Drain, and also the fetch, just one more fetch, let's say, gets me to like Ancestral Breach, probably with what I'm gonna get, and I'm gonna get a lot of mana. So I'm trying to set up a way where I can kill them relatively easy. Exactly, so Mystic Forge. And again, also the idea is like, I value more the Mana Drain in my hand than any 3 random cards that I can get here, right? Like, what else am I going to do? I have turn 1 Mana Drain, like this is just what you want to do. They're going to just start jamming things. It also plays through a through a bubble. So yeah, you get the Forge, which is one of the most important cards to get because you can't stop it with the Needle. And here with this much mana, I'm just gonna go. We have 6 mana, so we can make the pile with the Time Walk that I mentioned at the beginning. And I'm putting Brain Freeze because I already have I already have the Breach in my hand, so I don't need to put the Breach in the pile. So I'm just putting Brain Freeze already in there. And the reason is that if it goes into the graveyard, who cares? Because I can just cast it next turn. So that basically no matter what here. Because again, that no matter what, because I have the Breach, right? So right now, whatever they do, I'm just going to play Breach and get my Lotus. Lotus, Brain Freeze myself, and it's over. So here we just keep the same thing and move on. So this hand plays fine. Let's talk a little bit about it. So we're keeping this hand, and this can do a lot of things. Outside of just a Vexing Bubble start or like a Trinisphere start, which sometimes they play, we can go into a turn 1 Time Walk plus Needle on whatever they play, which outside of just the, outside of just the Mystic Forge, I think we should be fine. Worst case scenario, we just hurgle everything back. Bamp can get us also a bunch of stuff, and so I think it's a okay hand. It dies to some things, but it's also a fine keep, I would say. Not without danger, obviously. So top into Cage. So Cage is stops us from comboing, but doesn't stop us from playing the game like Nurrod. And so Cage is fine because honestly, you can just ignore it until you go for the win. And I already have the Hercule to cover it, so that's fine. Here, I do the Brain Freeze, which means that if I get rid of this Cage, my Vamp is already very close to killing. Because if you have enough Storm already with the Vamp for Breach, you can sometimes try to go fishing with the Brain Freeze. I'm not in that desperate of a situation, but it's okay to have it. Usually you don't want to see freeze outside of the combo kills, but having it in hand makes some of the piles much easier because you don't have to spend the mana to get it into your hand, that sort of stuff. And so here, the thing that I go is, what could they possibly have that they went for this line? And my thought is just either a big artifact or that they really depend on this top. So I'm going to Needle the top, which it kind of is a little of an aggressive play because there's a lot of things that can go wrong for me here, like the ring, that sort of stuff. If it's the ring, I think that you could do a couple things. So first is either, hurgle your own things and then redeploy the Needle on the ring, or you can bump for a chain, start getting that way. But I think that basically like a Soul Read, I don't think that I could recommend this Pithing Needle like this. In fact, this is similar to how I lost one of my rounds in Japan, when I needed the ring and then got by the, by the Tezzeret. But here I feel somewhat okay. I can also bump for Ancestral and get more cards. And so I do, and then here I get Force, which makes me a lot happier with what I'm keeping. Again, this ring that we've mentioned. So if this ring resolves, it's very unfortunate for me. But now that I've blocked the top and I have this Force, I can get rid of it. If this ring resolves and they draw, then we can start thinking about Hercules into Needle and something else, because the Hercules is more or less free. It's +1 mana if I bounce my Mana Crypt just to Needle that, or I can just bounce all of their things and then try to go from there and do something with it. Depends on what my hand was, obviously. But I did decide to go for the top, which, I don't know if that I would recommend. Maybe I don't do the same play again, but that's what I did here. So Fawn the ring, which is not ideal because that means that it is available for our opponent if they have a Karn. And now we have taken 2 hits from the crypt, I believe. So that would be 6 damage, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so we have taken 2 hits, which means that we have a couple of turns with without dying, basically. Here, I could have stocked up for a land and still keep Hercules, but I think that I want to go gifts and try to kill as soon as possible. But they miss a land, and here that means we have to start thinking about what that could mean. So if they don't play a land, first of all, they have no lands, but also it means that they have no artifacts, and they have nothing that is that cannot be played with the Mishras, right? So any artifact gets played here, basically, which means that there's no artifacts. And then Ancient Tomb on 2 means, and they can't play anything, means that this is basically just either a bunch of Tesserets, a bunch of Flesh Rakers, Karn, but also Mindbreak Trap. And so here I'm like, okay, I can try to make a pile that goes through Mindbreak Trap. I decide to grab Force just to have it as a good card, because again, if you look at these piles that we've been talking at the beginning, Lurrus Demonic Breach, but I already have Time Walk and Ancestral, so this card can be literally anything. I go for Force also because I have Brain Freeze. I have a little bit more leeway on what I want this card to be, but it could be other things too. If I want to try and make a ton of mana, I can also get Chain just to bounce my crib, bounce my thing, and put more lands in the graveyard, maybe more colorless mana, but I think in this point I'm fine. Outside of Breach, you could just do a Braid if you want to, and just like, upgrade the cage, pass, something like that. I think at this point, you just want to try to go for the kill, and so I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna give me the Force because they don't want to give me any of the other 3 cards, and I know, and we know, that no matter what they give me, they're dead, because I have the Brain Freeze in hand, I have the Hercules in hand, so I am much less reliant on this mana. So assuming that they give us Force, Lotus just means that we can go for a Lurrus kill. So 1, 2, 3, 3 play, we play the Lurrus, and then oh my god, it would be Lurrus, then Lotus, then replay Time Walk, and then from there just replay and kill, and any other combination I think wins from here. Actually, they say that right. I think Force Black Lotus doesn't kill immediately. No, because we would have Brain Freeze, I think. It might not be, but at this point, because of what they've shown us, I'm pretty sure this Force covers us. And if they don't give us the Force, they for sure die, whatever they give us. And so our opponent gave us Breach and Force because, again, they think, okay, well, you cannot play anything from the graveyard because you have Grafdigger's Cage, you didn't get anything. And so the Monic would cover anything that I would get, like Chain or anything like that. And Lotus stops me from doing something like Brotherhood's End. And it just also a lot of mana. So Force makes sense, just so that I, 2 for 1 myself for something. But here, we already have the kill. So first we just get Hercules, Breach, and then we get the card. I think because we already have Brain Freeze, we can do whatever. But here I could have just gotten Bump and leave the gifts in my deck. And the reason for that is that, actually what did I even exile? Yeah, there's like ways where you could maybe want a second Force, but like at this point it's over. And that's it for this round. All right, this is round 6. We are on the play. And our opponent reveals a Lurrus. Now, at this point, I am not sure. Lurrus can be, in my opinion, at this high, right? So we are 5-1 at this point. Has to be an actual, like, good Lurrus deck. It could still be Bug, but I expect something like Pio, Frog, or the Mirror, maybe. Luckily for me, I don't have to guess. This hand is all right. Has a little here and there. I mean, it can go turn 1 gifts if I think that I need something cool. It's a very, very controlly hand, but also can get a little punked by a Wasteland. And so, if I get wasted this way, let's say, right, you can always just make pop the island, pop the Lotus, then gifts. and try to get like a couple lands and something else, just to continue playing. Or if you could just go like, ancestral to 3 lands, and then from there you can, get 2 lands, get back in your feet, mana drain, that sort of stuff. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, again, it's an okay, it's fine hand, okay. It's just like dangerous if there's frogs, exactly, and they have a wasteland heavy hand. But we see, not only do we draw on the next land, which is cool, but we also clearly see that this is just the mirror. Our opponent has 3 Force of Wills, 2 Gifts Ungiven, Fetch, and Fluster, which means that we are in it for a very, very, very long game. In these mirrors, making your land drops is basically the most important thing you can make. And also, it is all about moving last if possible. Saga is one of the most important cards, and so that means that countering Demonic and countering Bamp is going to be almost necessary, because you have very little tools and you are both very, very controlling. So something that can make the component clock on game without going through the stack is very important. But our opponent has a hand that is basically all reaction, and same with ours. But it's also all 2-for-1s for the most part, right? Like 3 forces, 3 blue cards is very good at not dying, but doesn't do anything. And our hand is actually pretty stacked. We have, should we have it, we have 3 forces, like 3 counter spells. Obviously, I don't want to pop this Lurrus for nothing. Now we know they've drawn the Sapphire. So for the most part, we are the owners of our own destiny here. I grabbed the Lurrus. And the reason for the Lurrus is just that I want to maybe force them to pitch the gifts or pitch something like that. The least cards that my opponent has, the better for me. And also, if I make them pop one of the forces, I can get the gifts for free. So now my opponent has basically 3 forces, 3 blue cards, and has drawn land, surveilled a card on top, which was the Floodstone, I believe. And so here with this land, I'm trying to make something happen. And here I make inaccuracy. And that is that in this deck, if you have mana drain and you have mana to follow up, you want to move to your second main phase. And why is that? That's because usually, in this case, I think it's going to work fine. But let's make this analogy, right? Like, let's say what I'm going to do. Let's see what happens, and then we can talk about what I could have done. So here, because of that, and I have a handful of counter spells that I can just bait things with, I'm just gonna try to force this Lurrus through. Worst case scenario, I mean, they have to force this no matter what. There's no way this doesn't get forced. I just force back. They force again, pitching the gifts. So now I know I just need to worry about one of the gifts. And here I just was like, you know what, you can have it. I traded 2 cards, or 3 cards basically, but Lurrus was not in my hand. So basically 2 cards. I trade Lurrus and Drain for force gifts. Which, again, it's a lot about having card advantage in this matchup, and so I'm fine with this. I can then play my gifts protected by Fluster next turn. If I draw a blue card, I can go. So here's what I can also do, and this is also an important thing about mana drain. Mana drain says the next main phase. So after this first main phase, I have a second main phase. Let's say that I decide here in this part of the stack that I want to Fluster. Now my Fluster is, yes, I get a Lurrus. Okay, so in this exact spot, if I go Fluster and my opponent does not want to commit their Fluster as well, then I could play my Black Lurrus, get the mana from the mana drain, and then gifts with the blue mana from the Lurrus, and maybe even win, actually, now that I think about it, because they would have, like, what, nothing? So maybe it's Fluster here, actually. Interesting, maybe I just missed lethal here. So if I Fluster, their Storm is 5, so they Fluster back. No, they Fluster back. They Fluster back. Can I pitch any of them? I can resolve 2, and they have 2 mana to pay, so no, okay, so I cannot do that. But should I want to, or should I try to? I guess if I just commit the force, but that's just like ridiculous at that point. But let's say that, hey, they're like, you know what, I'm fine with this Lurrus coming in, I'd just rather have the force. the mana from the mana drain would come up on my next turn, and then I would have to have it. So usually in these positions, you might want to go to second main phase, because if you fight with the mana drain and it resolves, then your next first main phase, or so on your next turn, you're going to have all that mana. You can use it for something, which here I'm like a little choked on blue. I don't want to go down on all my cards because I know that they have gifts, and my Fluster covers the gifts. So here they play the Petal, so that's their fourth mana. And they're not going to go for it, which is smart, because realistically, like, why? I could have anything. I didn't fight for the Lurrus, so they have to be putting me on one counterspell, because they also know that I know that they have Fluster, and that I didn't want to fight more for that, right? I got my 2/4 sort of, and I moved on. So now I know their entire hand, because they put Lurrus in their hand. So I know that if I can beat the Fluster, I'm just winning. And I can beat the Fluster with my own Fluster if I want to, which I do. What to get here, though? I already have the Lurrus in the graveyard. And again, let's just think about normal piles that we always talk about, right? So if you see here, I'm starting to click. I start clicking through the usual pile that I always make. So I always click that pile first, and then I think after other things, maybe. At this point, I'm like, hey, you know what? I actually just want more cards, because my opponent has gifts. Whatever they do, pretty much, I'm just gonna... Because also analyze their mana, right? They have mana, mana, mana. That's it. Lures that they cannot cast, and gifts that they cannot cast. If they draw a land for gifts, I just have force blue card already, and I just stop it. They cannot do anything else. If they draw an Ancestral, I just force it. If they draw a Stock Up, I just force it. If they draw whatever they draw, I can force it and get out. There's no one card that they can get that stops, that makes me lose the game, basically. And so here, I can decide to try and push my luck. The problem is that I don't have black, and my black was already in the graveyard, and I don't want to put like 3 cards or 2 cards in my pile that will give me black. And so back to the principle of making a pile that is just like value. It's the Ancestral, Stock Up, Gifts, Time Walk. But also, as I mentioned, Saga is very important. So I end up with like this hybrid, I believe, of like just 2 very good blue cards plus the Breach, so that I can play the blue cards that you don't give me, and the Saga. So if you give me the Saga, then, you know, we're going to start playing for just play Saga Hold, in which case I have first mana drain for the first spell, and then, first Force of Will for the first spell, right? Because I want to play the expensive spell first. And that is because when the Saga pops up to +1, I want to be able to hold up my mana. So I play it like this just to get more value. Again, these are either a card that is going to win me the game in this position, or a lot of value. I think I don't know if they misclicked it or not, but they are very afraid of the Breach, which makes a lot of sense, and they don't want me to have Stock Up. They'd rather have me have Ancestral, which maybe I don't agree. Maybe here you wanted to give me the Stock Up, but again, Stock Up is like a little better selection. They have very little going on. So yeah. Okay, so they don't play anything, which means to me that it's a counterspell, pretty much. They know that I am tapped out. So it is either a counterspell or something like a braid. I mean, here even you would maybe think of abrading the Mana Crypt, or they just like pretending to have something. Ancestral immediately, and they have the Mana Drain. So Mana Drain, realistically, I don't care. And here's why I don't care. They're gonna get the mana, and with that mana, they're gonna play gifts, and they have 1 more card that they can draw. It cannot be Force, or it can be anything, right? But whatever it is, this Mana Drain covers. And so even though I can Mana Drain here and get my Ancestral, I actually don't need to. And in fact, this is gonna bait them into playing, or I think it's gonna bait them into playing gifts, because they have to do something. Like, they cannot let this Saga resolve. And again, like, I know it's weird to let the Ancestral get countered, but like, I'm winning from here. Like, there's very little that they can do to get out of this. Because I also know what they have, right? So here, same thing as before. The Demonic is actually a thing that we want to counter. I know that they have nothing going on. I don't want to pitch my force. So counter, make my thing, and move on. I'm making another one, and here it's a death because of the time walk. I get Soul Guide Lantern just in case I die, but honestly, I should get like Soul Ring or whatever. But yeah, gifts, attack for 4, and then here we just gifts for 4 artifacts, and we are hitting them for 12. And so it is. We win. Again, we could have just fight for the ancestral and go even higher, but I didn't think we needed to, and we didn't have to. I think in that position, pretty much no matter what you do, you're gonna be fine. And so the mirror, pretty strange mirror, honestly, because you have mostly the same tools as everyone else. The one way that you die very quickly is Dress Down. Dress Down. God. It was a Saga. So I think I'll bring in the other Dress Down. I don't want the Force of Negation because I know there's going to be Pyros and stuff. Although Force, sometimes people commit their Black Lurrus very early and they lose it, and it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to combo through without that. But I don't think it's that good here. I already have a lot of... Basically, I'm upgrading my forces, right, a little bit. Because Pyroblast is going to cover most... Like, if you look at our deck, right, they have the same deck as we are, and this is like blue land. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 non-blue spells, 5 red spells, and 2 black ones. The rest is blue. It's like 30 cards blue, right? So this is basically going to destroy anything. I opt for Spellbomb over Soul Guide, mostly because A, it's a different name, so I can grab more Graveyard Hate if I think that that's what I need, but also because there's not like a singular card that I want to get out of the graveyard. Usually I'm going to blow up the entire graveyard all the time, and so when I do that, I want to get something for it. It also helps because I know what hate they can have. They cannot have things like Gravedigger's Cage or Null Rod or that sort of stuff, so that stops me from... A Braid is just whatever. It only kills the Lurrus. If they get the Lurrus going, then so be it. But usually I should be able to like stop it from coming down. Although a Braid is perfectly legit to keep. I think at this point I keep this one. And I don't go down both islands because of what I mentioned, that you want to have all the islands all the time. There's a thought for putting Mana Crypt out. And the reason is that these games tend to go very long. And so you don't want to have a Crypt ticking down and killing you. So that's the only thing that maybe I would think, like maybe this script should be island. I haven't played the mirror basically at all, or just a couple times actually, against the same person. And so I'm trying to play it as I play against them, which is just very, 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 very slow. Oh, actually I didn't make this change, do I? No, I don't. Think about it. It's funny because a lot of the times I just go over the same thoughts that I had at the time. Okay, so I decide the upgrade is maybe worth it over... over the Crypt. That's fine. I think I kind of agree. Again, it's like you don't want to have the Crypt because it's like a ticking bomb in this matchup that tends to go super long, and then that means that they can just wait and wait for you to do that to your own Crypt. And the Braid is just generally fine. It's gonna kill the Lurrus, which is the only creature that you really care about, and it's gonna do a lot of stuff. Okay, this hand is a little strange. It doesn't die immediately, but again, this is not a super turn 1 combo kill deck, so there's not that much pressure there for me. Resolving the Soul Ring is going to be pretty important to help me go through the stock-ups. It's a little bit of an awkward hand, but I'm willing to give it a try. There's like an attempt at... I think I'm just out. I don't think I have the Soul Read that they need these Mox. There's no way that you force a Mox either. And not in this matchup. They get Lurrus, and so I move on. Okay. So here, probe first. Here I'm gonna make a mistake, I believe. Is there a mistake? Yes. So here's what I'm gonna do. Let's see again what I do first, and then we're gonna go over what is the mistake. By the way, at any point of this video, I should have mentioned before, but just pause and see what you would do if you want to learn a little bit more. Compare and contrast. There's, I'm not, what I say is not necessarily what is good, is what I'm thinking about. So again, and this is because of like last game, everything was about the Saga. I just play Saga Soul Ring, pass. Hanging basically off my force, and because I have seen their hand, it's basically just like all Lorians. All Lorians, basically. Here I force, because obviously I cannot don't have it. And here is where my missequencing is gonna come and haunt me, because I cannot fluster this because of mana. So here's what I should have done, I believe, pretty strongly actually. So when I open here, right, what I had to do is actually just play Volk Pass. And why is Volk Pass? Because now they, as far as I know, they need a what's his name? They need a blue source, right? So they either go blue source, which would be their hand for the card for turn, and because the Lurrus is in their hand, by the way, this is not just revealed; it's in their hand. So I know the hand. So basically, it has to be blue card, sorry, blue land for, and then immediately cast Lorien, in which case I just fluster it, or they are gonna tap one of the Soul Rings, the Soul Ring to cycle one of the Loriens for the blue, play the Mana Crypt, and then Lorien. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, right? Because one of these is gone. They would have one floating, and Storm is 1. Sorry, Storm is 2. So at this point, my fluster is effective. So that would cover the first Lorien and the second Lorien. And then I can go Saga, play Soul Ring, tap Soul Ring, pass, or even get Lurrus at that point. And then for the third Lorien, I would have the Force. And I would have Soul Ring. Actually, I wouldn't even get the Lurrus because I would need 3 mana in case they fluster me. Because it would be Lorien, Force, Fluster. That's 3 cards, and I would have 3 mana up. So that sequence is going to cost me the entire game. Because I had too much momentum from the last game of winning off Saga, so I want to speedrun the Saga. But I end up losing because of that. Because here, spoiler alert, I guess. Here, my opponent is going to go pretty gung-ho on me, resolving the Lorien. And again, they're up. So what did we say this matchup was about? It's about whoever moves last, right? But also being up mana, being up cards. And my opponent is both up mana, up cards. Crypt is kind of ticking, but because of how many cards they have and how much more mana they have than me, in fact, they have a colossal amount of mana. This is just not something that just the construct is going to be able to breach. And here, I am very afraid of just dying. Sorry for that. So yeah, here I'm going to add... I'm going to grab Spellbomb. Again, there's not one card that I want to get rid of. So Spellbomb is going to cycle itself. And I'm also just going to try to put some pressure while not dying. But my Fluster is basically ineffective right now. Popping the Soul Guide there is a little bit dangerous for my opponent. Even if they need the card, I'm not sure. Because this Lurrus has no guarantees of resolving. So here I'm just pre-popping... and I'm getting double black because I already have a lot of red. Maybe there's an inkling that I don't. But here my opponent goes for just a kill. And they have it. The force on the Lurrus. So this is mostly because I am afraid of a lot of things. But I feel like this is like as quick as I can force something. But maybe it was too premature, actually. Yeah, maybe it's too premature. Because what is the Lurrus even doing for them? He gets them another petal. The problem is that if they have if they have like a what's his name? If they have a breach, they're just going for it, and the Lurrus is gonna give it to them. And if I don't force anything, then I'm just very afraid. But I think that force was just too aggressive for sure. I'm kind of tilted because as soon as I did the other thing, I realized that I missequenced the Lorien sequencing, and I didn't need to. And so here, yeah, whatever. My opponent can get whatever they want. They can make a pile that doesn't have breach, so they have breaching hand, or at least I think they have breaching hand. There's no way they don't. And then here, I'm just gonna try to get to see a little bit more of the deck. I see Price of Freedom, interesting card. Actually, pretty cool. I don't think that would bring it in this matchup, but I guess I keep up Braid, so this is somewhat the same. Yeah, so I'm just trying to see a little bit more cards. And And I see, you know, this is the three Lorians is somewhat of a new thing. So I'm kind of like, okay, it's a little bit of like a different version than mine. They also have the Undercity Sewer, so it's a little bit more value, which also means to me, or this tells me usually, that they have less mana drains. So I'm going to have the advantage in the counter wars, generally. So here, because I died a lot, I think I overreact. If I swap the upgrade for the... Yeah, that's an overreaction. I think my side was fine. I didn't die because of that. I died because I was too eager. I sequenced it and then I got tilted and I was too eager. So here I'm just thinking, okay, let's just try to refocus a little. And this hand is very good and very dangerous for my opponent. And here we have a couple plans. So there is definitely a way. So let's think it through, right? We could just go land, go upkeep, ancestral ourselves, play, right? That's perfectly legit. But there's just like a little bit more value that you can get from here, right? This is just ancestral. Let's say that I ancestral, they ancestral, and I don't have a force, then we're just like basically back at square one. So here I want to try and get them with the Red Lightning in a turn where my Mindbreak track is active, which means that I have to ancestral on their turn after they do something. And so even though it's perfectly reasonable, by the way, to go for ancestral, but I feel like I want this ancestral to trade for more than just, like, if they have misstep, for example, then it's just like you look silly. Like, realistically, I don't need to cast the ancestral yet. Again, I'm going to try to make land drops as much as possible. I'm going to be, like, extremely patient with this ancestral, almost to a fault. Merchant Scroll is great because you only Merchant Scroll usually for ancestral. And so, okay, here I'm like, okay, wait, cool. And so here I go, right? Ancestral, because they play one spell. If they play the second one, I force it. The third one I can Mindbreak Trap. I ancestral. They force. I force back with mana drain because I need this Mindbreak Trap. That's my only card. Resolves. And this is because, not necessarily because they don't have anything. I think it's because they might be like, Mindbreak Trap. I don't want to get Mindbreak Trapped, so I'm just going to do this, which makes sense. But here, I am not drawing lands, but I already went up a couple cards, and I still have mana. There is an idea of demonicking for a land, or even for Saga, which is fine. And I might think of doing that at some point. But not right now. I think I can definitely just hold for a couple turns, and I'll just do that. There's nothing happening. I resolve my ancestral. My opponent has their ancestral in hand, which means that it's burning a hole in their hand. Maybe they are anxious because they want to play their own ancestral, but I'm also not playing land, so what could I possibly have? It's just gonna be spells, right? So in that case, it's just like, how many counter spells does my opponent have, and can I get through? So I just let it happen. Here, this is a little bit of a being a little too quick, because in this position, my opponent can have, ancestral me, I pop my petal, do redirect lightning, then they have whatever they want. They can even Mindbreak Trap, hard cast, whatever, right? So I demonic here. If I'm my opponent, I might try to force here, but they might just be afraid that I have another force or something. Like their hand might not be that good. They let this demonic resolve, which I don't think is correct. Here I'm like, okay, well, this is resolved. I'm about to get a fetch, but I'm like, well, if they realize that they mistimed it and they could get clapped by it, they might want to respond to my fetch, and so I'm just gonna grab a volcanic. And it's volcanic because I need to be able to play this right lightning. Normally, okay. So one spell, that's good for me. They put Lurrus to hand because they have, they use this and they have Lurrus. So they have Lurrus Ancestral and 3 unknowns. Lorien is great. I just tap, get another, and pass, and happy to keep trading. My opponent's Soul Guides, which is very unfortunate. Well, not very unfortunate, but it means that it's going to be a little harder for me to win. Get Demonic, which makes sense. Ancestral is also a good one here, but I guess Demonic is the one that kills. Again, not moving at all. I could be merchant scrolling for whatever, gifts in the turn, whatever. I'm like being very, 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 very patient. This Fluster is losing effectivity as it goes, because of course they have a trillion mana. And my opponent goes right now. And so it's like, okay, we're going to party, so we party. My hand is like stock full of counter spells. I have a 1, 2, 3 counter spells, and I can almost even gift for 2 more. So we're going. Realigning, target myself. But let's go. And here I'm like, could be fine, right? Because like we traded one for, well, not 1 for 1. I went 1 down and gained 3, and they went 1 down, so it's like 1 for 4, basically. I think. No. Yeah, 1 for 4. But it's my end step. I have 9 cards in hand. I cannot deploy any of the cards that I draw. And so it's bad for my opponent, but realistically, like it could be much worse. This is like the best case scenario for them. So if they were playing around the landing, props to them, because it's probably the best time to do it. And so here I'm just dropping cards because I have so much, and I don't need this Merchant Scroll anymore, like for anything. I also don't need this stock up because I'm gonna kill them pretty quickly. In fact, after this turn, I think I'm just gonna try to go for it, especially with the Lurrus. So my opponent sees my hand with the probe, and they have Lurrus in hand and 4 more cards, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counter spells potentially. So the Demonic, again, as I mentioned, I cannot let this resolve because of Saga. They have they have a lot of artifacts, and if they go for it here, they can just hold up. And so I mana drain it. Pretty simple. Storm is 4 now, which is a lot for the Fluster. So this Fluster is potentially live if we start tangoing. And also because they've already used most of their cheap spells, right? Ancestral, Demonic, and Merchant Scroll are all spent. And so left are things like Breach, things like Stock Up, that sort of stuff. Also, by the way, that Demonic can go for Breach, and if I try to counter the Breach, they just can get Lurrus and try to fight the Mindbreak Trap, which is the linchpin here. They're trying to navigate what they know. But after getting the Mox played, I'm like, okay, you have like Lurrus 2 cards, and I have more than enough counter spells to get rid of most things. Even if you play the Breach, I can like chain it, and like we can start doing some stuff. Like chain doesn't necessarily work because they can sack the things, get back the Sapphire and the Jet, and replay the Lurrus, and like a lot of stuff can happen. But Lurrus is played, and my opponent has played 4 spells at this point, so I could Mindbreak Trap this if I wanted to. And here I'm thinking, like, what do I want to try and do? Because if I Mindbreak Trap that, and so let's say I Mindbreak Trap, right? If I trap and my opponent goes Breach, from here they can either Ancestral a couple times, or just kill me probably, actually, because they have another card here. So they have the Soullight, so they can go Lotus 1, 2, 3, Lotus 1, 2, 3. Sorry. They can play Petal with 1, 2, 3. Crack it for black, and then 1, 2, and the Soul Guide, or even the Petal itself. No, not the Petal itself. This, and then they get Demonic for, what's his name? For Brain Freeze, and then they try to go, and then I have to Fluster. Like, it's not clear exactly how to sequence this. So what did it happen? I'm like, you know what? You can have it. I am not afraid of dying. This is very strange. The pop for the land. I think that you are too short on mana to afford it. And so here, I'm just gonna try and bait my opponent. I mean, they know what's in my hand, so they're just trying to get more cards. I chain. Here, one thing that you can do if you're like, if you have it, let's say, is to use my chain to bounce 2 of their artifacts with the 2 cards to get more cards in the graveyard, but also they get 2 more mana. And depending on what they have in their hand, they could just replay Lurrus and go. But they stand against it, they draw, fetch, and now the hand is Lurrus and something else. Remember that I mana drained a Demonic, and so I'm going to get mana here. And from here, literally anything I do, I think is going to win. Their hand is 2 cards plus the Lurrus. And I have Fluster when they have 2 mana open. I'm flustering. Anything I fluster is just getting countered because I already played Lurrus, my spell, their force, my Fluster, that's just countered. And then if they even have more stuff, I can even hardcast Mindbreak Trap. So from here, I'm just gifting, and I'm just making the pile that I mentioned. Ancestral is in the graveyard, so but we have a ton of mana, so it's just the the bridge pile with that. I have gotten my demonic exiled because I cast it for a land and then it got pinched by the soul guide. So I can even be a little cuter and go for walk, breach, and then my bump with probe as a substitute demonic. I already have the Lurrus. And also, because I have just cast gifts, if I get my what's his name? If I get my breach, gifts is gonna be my tutor. So here they give me Time Walk Probe, which is basically whatever I get, and here I can just see they had breach gifts. So basically, kind of like playing around and save my Mind Break Trap for the breach, saved me there, because if they had gone for breach, then I just Mind Break Trap it and then it's over. So here I know I'm safe to go because they don't have mana for anything, and I have basically everything I want. I'm just gonna Time Walk, get Lurrus, play Lurrus, replay things, and then go to my extra turn, grab the breach from the graveyard. I don't even need it. And then here I just play the Merchant Scroll for Brain Freeze, but I can just gifts for Brain Freeze. I can do pretty much whatever I want, and it's over. So again, game 1 was mostly just about the patience, and then the main phase 1 versus main phase 2. Game 2, 1 miss sequence after seeing our opponent's hand meant that, pilot error gave us the loss. And here we just played it very, very slow, very, very, very slow. I think like our Ancestral was cast like very late, and my opponent also played very well. They delayed their Ancestral a ton. And that's basically what this mirror is about. Alright, so round 7 against an unknown opponent. Doesn't play a lot of vintage based on what I saw on their history, and no Lurrus. And so by what I've been saying all of this video, we are assuming that it is initiative. Does this hand beat initiative? This hand is okay against initiative. We have a force on anything to break the Chancellor Bubble if there is one, and Mind Break Trap to get or sneak by if there's like something played off cavern with enough cards, no spells being played. We also have the classic bump for Ancestral if we need to restock, or bump for a land if that's what I want to do. We already have partially the combo. We have the worst versions of our tutors. So Petal is way, way worse than Lurrus. It can help to kill much later in the game, and Bump is obviously much worse than Demonic. But it's a hand that I'm okay to keep. It also lives against most other non-Lurrus decks. Even if it is Dredge, I can bump for a what's his name? I can bump for Soul Guide if for whatever reason my opponent is just like very, very, very slow. On the draw, this is probably I'm on the play, so that means that it's fine against Breach. And Stretch, because I could just bump for my Soul Guide and play the Soul Guide, defend it with Force. More or less, you can do things. So happy to keep it against anything. I know that I said I was going to jump around games, but some of these are very quick and also very illustrative. And the mono white initiative matchup is one that you want to be relatively comfortable with, because you fight a lot. All right, so our opponent is going to come back at some point. Yep, they come back. They mull to 6 and go. And so here I'm just going to play Petal and pass turn. And my opponent, I think, is dual queuing, so it's just going to go a little slower. So Tomb, Mox, and Lurrus. So Lurrus definitely something that you could counter. But I think like having Mind Break Trap and Force, I know that whatever they play, I can just pop. So Bubble means that I exile that. And then their Lurrus is their last white. So Force. And there's an argument to even try Brain Freeze. Actually, no, there's no argument. It's a bad idea because of what we mentioned, right? Bam for Ancestral and draw 3 cards. Boop. Lightning is alright against a Wasteland, which I don't see. White Plume, I cannot let that resolve, even if I'm losing my petals, so I'm just punching. And I can use the mana for the Lurrus. I am very lucky here that I get a land, which lets me play Lurrus, and also play Petal, which also lets me keep Wither Lightning up. And at this point, my opponent is basically on the verge of dying, but the Archon is one of the best cards that they have. And so my plan right now is just to defend my lightning, like my mana, if possible. I can only play one spell per turn, but I can use my opponent's spells for Brain Freeze. And I am going to Brain Freeze myself if they play anything. If they do play anything, they cannot play another spell because it's only one per turn. And now I'm going to Brain Freeze myself. Because I could get things with Lurrus. It already puts it in the graveyard. They don't have graveyard hate per se. It's more like Leyline, and definitely not main deck. So I hit the jackpot with the Soulguide Lantern, but I could also just stop playing some of my cards from there. Soulguide is great because obviously I can start drawing cards. And I am obviously not attacking with this Lurrus because, especially now with the Soulguide, I am not in any danger of dying. And I also am not doing anything if I get this Lurrus in. Void Mirror, very annoying if I try to kill. But, I can keep doing my thing and just passing. I'm drawing 2 cards a turn. My opponent seems to have nothing, which also favors me, obviously. If they were playing more spells, then we could think about other things we can do here. And I draw Breach. And at this point, that's a game, pretty much. And it's game because I'm going to... Now I can attack with the Lurrus. And the reason why I can attack with the Lurrus is that if they block, now I can play Breach, and I can replay my Lurrus. And with my Lurrus in play, I can just Time Walk, and then I have them on loop. Because I have 15 cards in my graveyard, I can also throw these mocks into the void, so I have 16. And so I can play Underworld Breach and Time Walk, and I can Time Walk, I would have 1, 2, so 12, 13... I can Time Walk 4 times, I think, 4 times each. I only need to Time Walk 3 times because these are skills, and so here I have them on a loop, and they're dead. Unless I have exactly something that I am unaware of. I'm even double casting it, but I honestly wouldn't even have to. I shouldn't even. I should just have Mana Drain up all the time in case I have the Plow. But yeah, from here I just go. They see the writing on the wall, and it's over. So this is one of those things where it's like, if you happen to have it, you can kill them without the combo. Same sideboard as always, we just bring in a bunch of anti-artifact and creature things, and we take out all of our bad cards. Again, redirect versus Vamp. In this showcase, I think I choose to forgo the redirect and trust more that the Vamp is gonna get me out of trouble. Redirect can sometimes, again, be pretty funny. But it's also like 5 life is a lot in this matchup. Like, you really need every single point. And so 5 life just to save a land is sometimes very hard to stomach. And this hand is fine, question mark. I mean, it dies an okay death against some cards. Like, the thing is, like, a Braid can stop the Lotus. Sorry, not the Lotus. Can stop the No Rods, can stop all of those types of effects. And if I have Force of Negation to protect me from a super fast start, they play Leyline, which already means that I need either I'm killing them with the Construct, or I need a Chain of Vapor. I get a lot of artifacts here, and so I just get Lurrus. I cannot cast it, but it's fun to have it. I cannot use my mana in any other way, and so why not? If they had exactly, like, there's one thing that you could think, it's a little strange, is if they have like what's his name? I mean, if they Lotus, I just Force of Negation by basically in this situation, right? Something like, let's just be realistic, or like just going for it. It'd be tap Witch for no, not even then. They would have to. I was thinking like Bubble into Strip Mine, get this into Black Lotus, Clarion Conqueror, but they cannot play it that way. So yeah, it's basically like, or something like that. Yeah. Here I get baited. they have the second Chromox. Well, not baited. Like, I was gonna do that anyway. And Clarion Conqueror. So here's what I was thinking. Like if they had, like, let's say after that Chromox inside was like a Black Lotus and this was like a Strip Mine, I would be pretty dead. Volk though, I'm just passing. And here I would have even let them attack me in case they don't play, because I would have liked to stop them from having white. But because they attack me with the thing, now it's pretty safe because they either have a 2-drop to play, which would be Void Mirror, which in this case is pretty much I don't care, or it's just another mana source. chain, so that stops the ley line, but I'm going to keep it just in case for forcing something that's important. I mean, it'd be very annoying to have to get rid of this chain, and basically nothing would make me force this, but here we go. And I pass. I pass because gifts just gives me the kill, and I can force something if I want to, or I can even just like, you know, get four blue cards, force whatever, and then just do. And again, with the same thing as always, just the pile. However, in this case, I already, I mean, Ancestral is here and Time is here, but I can just kill them. I think it's better because also I have bounced their ley line. So if they draw Lotus, or they have the second ley line, a Chrome Mox or something, they can just replay their thing, and I don't want to go through that. And so I just go for the kill. I draw the breach, I just happen to do it. But here, you could do just pretty much whatever because of the Lurrus and the Black Lurrus and stuff. Again, I vamp. This was a misclick, by the way. Here, I obviously have to go for Brain Freeze. It's silly that we end up in this situation, actually, because now I have to like do actual think. Because if this was Brain Freeze, this is a trivial kill. You just Brain Freeze and kill them. But I mess it up. And so here we do some thinking, and we are like, oh, actually I can just chain a couple cards and get a couple more mana and a couple more cards in my graveyard. And I Ancestral. I still haven't Ancestral. I could like, and I'm like, I can Ancestral again. Even here, actually, just this Ancestral is stupid. Well, actually, I need the card in the graveyard. So now it's just like, okay, well, I can Demonic from here and have enough cards, and then I do. But it, you know, I misclicked the Ancestral and got it inside the Brain Freeze. And yeah, that's a pretty quick one, but also shows you, like, you know, where the inflection points can be when you're playing against this deck. All right, so this is round 8. It's our win and in, and this is actually game 2. Because game 1 was very, very uninteresting. I had the broken start of the challenge for me. I had like, I think 8 mana, turn 2 actually, being on the play, and it was just impossible. My opponent is on initiative. And so I've done the usual sideboard that I've been doing all of this challenge, and I see this hand on the draw, which is pretty bad. And it's bad for multiple reasons. First of all, I already have my basic, but anything, really anything, like this just doesn't do anything. It just dies to everything, and so it's bad, and so we are going to put it back. You know, have no turn 1 play. Yes, we have the mana, but it's just like nothing. We have nothing to play around or against their luck pieces. If we die a miserable death against an Archon, pretty much. A fast initiative creature just like absolutely destroys us here, and so no way to say. Opponent is taking a little bit. I'm only here, and so this hand is interesting because you are so very close to a kill with, like, if this Mox was a Lotus, this is already a kill. Actually, no. If one of these lands is a Lotus, it's a kill. But our opponent has, or we've been facing a lot of Leyline of the Void versions, which points me, I don't remember if this person was a tourist or not. I think they played some vintage, but basically I'm like, okay, everyone's copying the same list, and so I'm gonna face 4 Leyline of the Voids. If I keep freeze, it's a little unfortunate. At the same time, I could just do it. Just, you know, I have a win, and I know I have the next game. If I lose, I'm on the play, so I could take some risks. But I decided to take it off, and my opponent shows nothing, so there's no bubble and there's no Leyline. They're also multi-6, so to me that meant that they were trying to go for Leyline, and so I don't want to keep it, the Brain Freeze. And they play an Archon. So it's probably like worst case scenario for us, because Archon is by far the best thing they can do against us. And my hand doesn't necessarily do much against it. They have the first Wasteland for our Black Source, but there's really not that much that I can play around. I mean, I could try to be like 300 IQ and bait it and play the Volk first, so they blow it, whatever. The good thing is that they're not doing really much. And missing, this is just lands, so it's either like their hand has to be like lands, or they just drew the Leyline. because I think at that point you would just go for a thing. Here they get the other wasteland for my delta. So I'm dying like a death by 1,000 cats in a way. The Zarkon is really stopping me from doing things, and here I'm just popping the bubble because if the bubble resolves, I'm not popping anything else, so might as well. And it's also because it is the only spell, so I know that I can just force that and move on with my life. And here finally I untap with black mana, and so Momentum Breaker is gonna liberate me. I could even just chain it if I want to. White Plume coming in, which means that now the party is over. But they don't play anything, which to me, this just tells me that their last hand is either Mindbreak Trap or the... what's his name? The Leyline. It is possible with the sequence of draws that this is just Adventurer, but I think you would go Adventurer first before White Plume, and that's because Adventurer hits a lot harder. There's a point here where I could have like bounced Chain with Momentum Breaker, but that, you know, and just save me some strife. I get unable to Scream. I think in this position there's just so much that you can do. You can try to kill. So here I'm doing counts because I'm thinking if I can kill from here, and the answer is that I cannot. I think I'm gonna go for it because I'm super tired, and yeah, I'm trying to go for it. It's not possible unless I want to just chain everything. Like I can chain. So here you can chain Ruby, bound, sack Underground Sea, chain Black Lotus, sack my Volk, get back Momentum Breaker, and I have enough cards in graveyard. I would have 3 more cards in graveyard, and then I just play Lotus, play Ruby. I would have blue, red, and triple black, and 8 cards in the graveyard. And so from there, I think I can go because I would just go Breach, Demonic, gets me 3 cards. I have 3 more cards. One of them is Lotus. So actually, even then, I don't think I can go. So yeah, I jumped the gun because I am a little afraid of dying. And I'm going to try going. And they have misstep. So, to some extent, okay-ish that they have misstep here. Because I can do some stuff with where I am. I haven't committed my breach either. So, I'm kind of fine just passing. My opponent goes for the Undercity. Sorry, not the Undercity, the Lost Archives, which to me is, I get it, but that means that their hand is absolutely nothing. Because anything here works, except for the initiative. I mean, if there's another initiative creature, I think they can kill me, because it will be +2, so I will be at 6. Then they play the initiative, I go to 1, and if it's the Discover card, I just not die because I can get 2 life from the Momentum Breaker. But I'm like very, very down, right? So that to me means that the hand has to be either, or it told me that it had to be something like the Leyline or Mindbreak Trap. But also, no, here comes the Archon, so I guess they scratched bottom and they got that. So here I'm able to Scream, lets me get that. And again, because they didn't go for the trap, I actually have time. Or I would have time, but I think also this gifts kills them. Sorry, I'm just starting to get a little tired. But I think, yeah, gifts from here is probably a kill. Because I go Thip, and then here, I mean, I'm not playing around my recycle anymore because I already know that it's empty. And so, gifts for wherever I want, so long as Brain Freeze is in there, I'm just winning. You usually put Petal in there, and then just more mana, more cards in graveyard. It doesn't really matter from here, it's over. And we made it in. Alright everyone, last match of the video against Olaniakos. They're going to be on the play with Blue Black Frog, this I know, and I think they end up winning the whole event. Now, at this point, top 8 really already qualifies you. This is all that I set out to do. And just briefly talking about the psychology of how this tournament went for me, in case it's helpful for everyone else. So, we've been playing for about 7-ish hours of a deck that's quite difficult to run. Caffeine Crush is happening already. I already accomplished my goals of getting top 8, or not my goal, but my wish. And so at this point, my deck also has delivered a ton, and I'm kind of like checked out. it's something like I'm making excuses for getting absolutely rocked, but it's not so much that, and more like if for me, in retrospect, trying to improve, it's more about once you reach this level, like regaining focus is very important if you want to keep going, right? I mean, obviously, if your wish or your goal was to just get top 8, then it's fine if you don't get it because you've already done everything you were set out to do. But for me, I think here I would have to just be like, okay, you gotta like get back in focus and focus on the match. If you've seen other matches in this video, first of all, thanks for staying so long in this video, but you'll hear me mention multiple times, oh, I misclicked this, oh, I get brain freeze instead, I get ancestral instead of brain freeze, or I don't see the kill, or I think I have a kill and I don't. So all of that is a compounding of me. I'm editing the video a little, but opponents taking a long time between because they're duo queuing, because they're tourists and they're playing their other format or something like that. And that just is very hard to stay focused all the time. And so here that's going to be a conflation of all of those things where a lot of things happen where I play poorly and I don't take my windows. My opponent obviously is also like a very, very, very good player. And so we're going to see how this goes. But again, on the draw, opponent moves to 6. This is a perfectly keepable hand. We can play into basics. If they try to go for Ancestral or Wasteland, we have Redirected Lightning, Soul Guide to try and get cute with the Lurrus, or also stopping their first thing, plus also stopping their dredge spells. Dress Down is also good for looping, or if they go for like a fast saga. And eventually stock up Demonic for Ancestral, that sort of stuff. So a pretty okay hand. We're not in any risk of dying anytime soon, although this Ponder scares me a little at first, thinking that it might be Doomsday, but Frog is playing a couple Ponders lately, so that's fine. And here we just play our red in case we might try and want to bait them into something. And thinking about whether I want to try and go for like a demonic line or keep up my real lightning. Ultimately, I decide to just dress down and step. This lets me cycle and stops them from drawing. So Frog is a very scary card for them, but it only ends up being like mattering after it hits you twice, in my opinion, right? The first one just cycles because it's already drawn itself, and then the next card is the one that gets advantage. So here I'm just trying to delay them and keep up my card advantage as much as possible, as well as I need to find another land. I find Saga, and Saga is kind of interesting because they have already wasted me, and also this Null Rod main deck, which I knew about because of that's the deck list that they last played. So here I'm going to try and see if I can play this Saga and protect it. But at the same time, because I, A, don't have 3 mana to make constructs, but I already spent my dress down, so that's one thing. And B, even the mana that I get from the Saga I cannot use, it's going to maybe be like too problematic for me. I get the Volk. In this case, I'm going to go. I can get this Soul Guide for free. I cannot activate it, but I am trying to, in the measure of possible, just delay them a little for their big Delve spell, which could get them back into the game. I am ahead by a couple cards, but that difference is going to start lowering as they play their Frog. And here we're just on the Saga plan. Now we don't have black, so that's going to make it a little difficult for us. And here, I don't know if they had the Wasteland before, because this is something that you can do sometimes against Saga decks. It's that if they play the Saga, because we played the Saga as our second land, so our third land needs to be the one that activates the Saga, which means that if you want to play something and you think your opponent has like Flusters or Mana Drains or whatever, you want to do it in the turn that the Saga is going to take to 2, especially because of this Null Rod, right? This Null Rod means that I cannot get an artifact to jump the mana curve. So him doing this now means that I cannot both protect my Saga and cast spells, right? And so here I'm gonna Redirect Lightning. Not even almost not necessarily because I want to protect the Saga, but more because I want to cut them off mana a little. Because here, again, this Saga is already not gonna make a construct, right? So no construct, and whatever I get from it is not gonna be active because of the Null Rod. And even if I cannot make a construct the next turn because that's my whole turn, and I think I want to try and stock up or something like that. So at this point, this is more about trying to make a fight happen where I can use my Redirect Lightning and my Fluster, and then maybe I can float mana. Depends on if I draw a land or not. I can either scroll for Ancestral, or stock up. So if that happens, obviously we're paying life because we need the mana to defend. We're gonna try and get their thing, and here they might display Lurrus and, you know, mission accomplished. Or not even that, which makes sense. This to me tells me, okay, there's probably like a Fluster or a Pierce or something like that. We got a land, which is good. Here, I don't know if I make a construct or not. I shouldn't, I don't think, because this game is not going to be about the construct anymore, and I don't, which makes sense. I'll get the Lurrus for a rain day. And here I have enough space that I can probably either the Demonic for a Ancestral, although if you're getting Ancestral, obviously Scroll is better, just because it gets lots of things. And I go for Chain, and here Chain I'm more thinking that I have a kill. Basically, if I bounce the Null Rod, and then I Demonic, pop Lotus, Demonic for Breach, and then I just kill from here. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to set up. My opponent obviously is not dumb, and not only are they not dumb, but one of the things that I realized later, even though I have to do it, is that Scroll actually reveals the card, right? So they know I have Chain, so they can understand that what's going to happen is that we're going to have a fight over this Null Rod. They pierce me first, Fluster, and they have another thing, I think, if I recall correctly. Yep, dig through because they used the spell, and now they can get a force to try and punch through. Yep, mental misstep, which is even worse. There's an argument that I might be able to wait, because this frog isn't really killing me that quickly, but because I paid 5 life for the Redirected Lightning, I am feeling a little threatened, especially because if they have something like Ancestral, they just kill me outright. Right, they would have 7 cards, Ancestral puts them to 9, and then plus all the cards, which, you know, is very aggressive, but still, like, the clock is ticking, and they are up in cards against me, and they're quote-unquote, we're equally mana, but like my deck is more expensive. So here, the Demonic for Breach, I'm trying to set up, because now I can Breach, recast Chain of Vapor from my graveyard with Force backup, and if I get another land, I can even Fluster backup as well. We got Wastelanded the 3rd time. Obviously, I cannot let this Ancestral resolve, although it is, you know, it's arguable that maybe I could have, but I don't think I can. In fact, I cannot, because this 3... it would be 5 cards, so this hits me for 8, but I did lose a life for this, so I would go to 1 if I don't counter it, but obviously they just happen, and Tamworld kills me. So yeah, that's like some inaccuracies, I think. Again, the deck has delivered a lot through this league, and maybe here I'm not playing it correctly. I should be stocking up instead of playing all of these like spells and just trying to find more lands because I'm under this Null Rod, and maybe I don't need, I mean, I could just try to, you know, go for something to kill the frog, but because I am not playing Pyroblast main deck anymore, I do not have a realistic answer to this frog outside of just trying to chain it, which I'm not going to do. I'm trying to raise the frog, and because I have no rod, they are going to be too quick for us. So in the sideboard here, we bring all of these -1 Momentum Breaker, and same sideboard as before. So basically, we take out a couple of fetches. Not so light. So yeah, we take out a couple of counter spells, Mind Break and Force of Negation, as well as a mana drain. Bump is Kai's advantage, and it's usually not incredible. Crypt, because even though it jumps us in mana, it gets caught under Null Rod often, and it adds to the clock for them. And Mox is our worst Mox, and so because they play, I already have seen Null Rods, but I know they play more Null Rods from the sideboard, as well as things like Annul and stuff like that, but also Vaccine Bubble. So as few zeros as I can keep, and then a bunch of answers to the Frog, which is their only card that I care about, or their big draw spells, more cards for Frog like Able to Scream, Log Goodbye, etc. Chain and Brotherhood's End for both Null Rod, Bubble, and Gravedigger's Cage. And we're out to the races. And this hand is fine. Has a turn to stock up if I want to play into something. Can deal with some things like we have like Unable to Scream for the Frog, a Braid for the first thing, stuff. Our opponent gets like what constitutes like quote unquote a broken hand for them. So Sapphire is obviously best Mox, plus Lotus means that they can go In this case, they could just even go double frog if they wanted to. Tormod script is very annoying, obviously because it's stopping from killing quickly. It's less that it stops from killing quickly in this matchup. It's more that it doesn't let me loop things like Dress Down or Soulguide Lantern, and so I want to get rid of it. So opponent plays the frog. Because I have it answered because of the unable to scream, I can just go. And here, one Shitong, very newish card. On 1 mana. So here, I'm not even sure if I was them. I don't know what is in their hand, right? I think the extra blue doesn't really matter because you're not going to draw a card. This card does draws you half X and grounds down. So this extra point is like clock. So this to me, it's mostly telling me that they don't have a Peters right now. Because you would have kept it just to keep it up. So here I'm just going to upgrade the frog and see if they want to trade cards for it, because they would have to trade 2 cards, right? The Turbo Busters, the Turbo Wasteland, and that's it. And here I'm just gonna play the Unable to Scream and Time Walk After. And the Time Walk After is because, you know, if they have days, they have days, but that means that I have Stock Up Protected next turn. And I stock up. This fetch is a little unfortunate. I'm not gonna not fetch if I need mana, but in the measure of possible, I wanna play around the 1 Shitong. And now I am dead in about 4 turns, 4 attacks, sorry. The frog is killing me for 2, this is giving me for 3. So if I pop this is a 6, and I go to 18, my clock goes down by 1. Because then they kill me in 3 turns versus 4 now. So I'm trying my very best not to crack this. And here I'm just gonna be like, okay, I just need, every stock up needs to find me more mana and more cards. And so stock up Mox is perfectly fine. Now Wasteland on black, which I think is the wrong, because nothing here stopping from doing. I think definitely black, bulk it would be better. Because I already have black, and I can cast my Lurrus if I really wanted to from here. Ancestor is a great draw, but you know I am potentially going for into a Bowmaster, which would kill me very, very quickly. So here, Pedal Probe is all right. Possibly you want to go like, there's other things that you could do, like just stock up Petal or stock up Mana Drain Pass, but they have so much already in play, and they just kill me with what they have. Could also Merchant Scroll for something like Pyroblast, or even if I had a lot of mana gifts, but here I think I'm going to get Probe and Petal. I am very afraid of what they have in hand. They have nothing. Lorien is kind of like silly, but I know I have a free reign to go, and so I go. Long Goodbye is very good because I can Long Goodbye the 1 Shitong, which is not only the fastest clock, but it's also stopping me from fetching. I also know that they only play 1. And here they play the last frog. And so here I can sequence it more or less fine. So Goodbye on the 1 Shitong, Pyroblast the frog, and then cycle for a land and pass. Potentially I could have tried to force the issue. So if I breach, my opponent has to stop me because I have a kill from here. Well, actually I don't, never mind, because that was the last game. But I could do Petal, I could Petal twice. So I Petal Ancestral, that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. So from those 6 cards, I can still do a lot of stuff, like just keep Petal up and the Fluster. Opponent continues to try and kill us, which makes sense. Ponder that I cannot Fluster, so I let it go. Opponent does not shuffle and Ponder. So basically they kept Ponder and 2 cards that they liked, or Ponder just to, and 2 cards that they don't like so that they can shuffle. And so here I decide to Fluster, and this might be very aggressive, but I think it's correct. To some extent, but really my whole plan right now is to try to do or force something with this Lurrus, because I can just go Lurrus into play Lurrus, and then they have to pop, pretty much. And if they do, then I have this Breach, and I can start to regrow from here. At the same time, it's like, well, what could they possibly have of this Ponder that could kill you? And the answers are, I don't know. Honestly, it might just not be good to pop it there. Maybe that was supposed to not be flustered, but I thought at the point it's like, well, I know they are empty, and so I am free to kind of like do whatever I want here. I tried to play this Lurrus just to force them to do something, because they don't want this pedal. So Brainstorm that they knew was on top. Wasteland and get Lurrus. And so here they're gonna hold. I just stuck up here into a decent-ish hand. So decent because there's things that you could do here. The quote-unquote safe is chain redirect lightning. I have not played a land, so I can play a land, chain their frog, and then when they try to chain mine, they can sack something to bounce my Lurrus, and then I can just play the Lurrus again. And having Unable to Scream in the graveyard, which means that when they play their next frog, I just either put it, or when the Lurrus comes down, I can do it. However, also realize that they are going to play Lurrus, and then they can replay Torment Script, which means that at that point, Redirect Lightning is also maybe something that I want to try and use, so that I empty their graveyard instead. They've already seen Redirect Lightning, and this is a good player, so they're going to play around it very well. But I also kind of like need to hit with this Lurrus because I'm very down on life. So Redirect Lightning and Chain of Vapor, I think, is what I pick. You could also make an argument for stock up Redirect Lightning. And in fact, it might just be better because I'm playing very scared here. But if I don't, I cannot stock up and Redirect Lightning because I would die. Unless I'm willing to sacrifice the Lurrus, which I'm not. Because of this is basically my play right now. So chain is doable if that's what I want to do. But then I would lose my graveyard. So I'm in a pretty bit of a pickle. So yeah, with chain, I think they're just going to let it go. They do. And so I just attack with my Lurrus. And now I'm feeling a little better. I doubt that they were going to sack it because they would have had to sack the Wasteland. I think it's their third Wasteland, yeah. If they wanted to do that, they would have had to sack the Wasteland, and for what? When I can just recast the Lurrus. I mean, not how I tapped out, but I could do something. Regardless, they just pop it here. I am fine with that. And so they play Lurrus, Torment Script, and pass. So here, unable to scream the Lurrus. They force off negation. And here, this is pretty much forced. Even though I think I miss. But it is almost forced to Redirect Lightning this. I think what I end up doing is try to get too cute. I'm going to misstep the Unable to Scream. Just so that I can play it next turn. Because I know that I can Redirect Lightning the Torment Script. So there is a line actually, I believe, that lets me do everything. I just don't see it. Let's see it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the problem is the life, right? So if I pay life for the Unable to Scream, so I can either Redirect Lightning the Force of Negation to itself, Unable to Scream this and attack, and stay from there. Or I misstep my Unable to Scream just to save it. I play Breach, and then I try to go for another chain off of the Unable Breach. And when they pop this, I redirect it. So I think 1, 2, then, so that's red, and this for Breach, this for Redirect Lightning, and I can pay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I can do everything and take 3 life, and maybe, you know, get to a position where my opponent has no graveyard, they have no Lurrus, and I can play from there. I forget if my Volk was exiled, but here, I'm thinking a lot. But again, as I'm saying, I'm like very tired and kind of like annoyed that the last card in my opponent's hand was like, because I gave them the blue card with the frog, and Force of Negation is basically the only thing that really beats me. So I kind of like half commit, and I don't attack. And here, that's just like the worst of both worlds because I really wanted or needed kind of to get rid of their thing. Also because at this point I forget that there's a Lurrus here. And so something like, not only that, but like any cards that get my opponent back in the game are things like Ancestral, and that's why I can redirect. But any of the Dell spells kind of kill. And so there, I think I was supposed to just force the issue and just breach for the enable to scream, because I know they were empty-handed. When they Tormod script me, if they do, I just redirect it. And if they don't Tormod script me, I just get their Lurrus, and I'm feeling okay. So Lurrus from the graveyard means that they have a draw spell, and so at this point, it's basically lost. They got both Frog and the Lurrus. I cannot block. Now my Redirect Lightning costs life, and they very, correctly forced me to do something with it. Redirect it to their graveyard. And here it's like, do I even have something that I can do? Because I can play, Soul Ring, Lurrus Breach, and then stock up and maybe enable to scream. I don't have mana for everything. I am short 1 blue. And so I get the Frog because right now their thing is like pretty pointless. I attack because I'm at 4. If they attack me with everything and they have literally anything, like any remove for the Lurrus just kills me, so I'm forced to attack. And here I'm at 7, my opponent is going to Demonic for Time Walk and kill me. So I think there were some areas where I could have done better. I think the last point where I had control of my destiny sort of was here. In this exchange, where I need to realize that this Lurrus is kind of like my way out, and I need to get rid of this Lurrus and establish dominance from here. So I need to get rid of their graveyard, need to get rid of their Lurrus, so that their only draws are things like Twister or Ancestral, and that's it. Because, again, they don't have enough mana. If I get rid of their graveyard, they don't have the Dell spells, that sort of stuff. So here, again, it's misstep the Unable to Scream, I believe. So I go to 5, and then red, and here this plays Breach. Well, actually I would have to cycle first. So cycle this, get this first for Volk, just so that I have the red available. I'm at 4, and then misstep Breach for 2, and then with the last blue you actually they have mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, never mind. I actually don't have any mana for all of it. Okay, so maybe I was lost anyway. So maybe here I have just to take my medicine and Redirect Lightning the force. And just get rid of this Lurrus and go. Yeah, maybe. The problem again is that this chain is stopping me from doing a lot of stuff. I could also just let it go, and then I can breach force and then chain, and when they try to pop the Tormod script, I just pop it back. They can just bounce my Lurrus, and then they just replay theirs, I replay mine. Yeah, so no, maybe I was still lost here. But yeah, anyway, for more analysis later, but that's basically where my showcase ended. I ended up 7th. Very happy with the performance of the deck, and again, as I mentioned at the beginning, like at some point when you are already like at your goal, you kind of like stop thinking a little. But also, not to devalue my opponent, they were very, very good and played very, very well. They won the showcase again, so that's pretty good as well. Anyway, just to wrap it up a little, for the channel, we're going to post a video explaining a little bit what we want to do. Very excited for 2026. Matt and I are branching out a little in terms of like what games we're playing and what formats and things that we want to do. Finally, something happened to Reanimator in Legacy, so you might see us play more of that, and so looking forward to that. Thank you very much for staying, and see you later.